Chapter 2964. When Chen Zhao arrived at the headquarters, he realized that West, Angelit, Gaia, Hallease, and Norma were all injured. What happened? Chen Zhao and the other members who had just arrived at the headquarters were all confused. They had no idea what was going on. We were attacked. Who? Psionic team? Not the psionic team. West shook his head. Just then, Gaia carried someone out. It was Duek. Gaia kicked Duek's calf. Duek knelt on the ground. But he still stared at everyone stubbornly. Who is he? Our captive. That means we won last night's battle, right? No, it's a draw. More accurately, we lost. Gaia's straightforwardness was unacceptable to West. He'd wanted to modify it and explain in a roundabout way. In the end, Gaia had completely embarrassed them. Your failure is just the beginning. Soon, the lady will come back for revenge. You, none of you can escape. Duek pointed at Chen Zhao in the end. Don't be like this. Actually, I don't want to fight. Can I go to your family and apologize? If we offended you in any way or did something wrong, we're willing to apologize. We can compensate anything as long as we can stop this war. The others stood at the side expressionlessly. His guild leader was acting like a drama queen again. No need to apologize. You just have to wait for death. Duek didn't have the self-cultivation of a captive at all. Moreover, he really thought that Chen Zhao was begging him. Shouldn't you show that you're willing to give me a chance, introduce me to the leader of your family, and then bring me to the headquarters of your family, where you will fall out with me, humiliate me in public, and kill me without an intact body? President, there's no need to be so troublesome. The captives have already confessed. They're from the Fellner family. Their headquarters is in Seattle. They call themselves a millennium-old family. Then why did they attack us? Your existence is the reason, Duek said coldly. Why does this kid always say such stupid things? Chen Zhao asked, pointing at Duek. A family-style brainwashing education, West said. You've already captured her. How are you going to lose? Chen Zhao was even more confused. Hearing that, West's face turned bitter. Looking at the crowd, he sighed and said, We didn't lose, but we didn't win either. The key problem is that the other party suppressed all of us with just one person. Chen Zhao more or less understood what West meant. It's fine, Chen Zhao comforted. Actually, you didn't lose to that woman. You lost to her divine weapon. It's not a big deal. You can take revenge later. Dwiko felt that this group of people were sore losers. He still firmly believed. Loving Martha is just a strategic retreat. Soon, she would regroup and come back. At that time, he could even work together with Amada. However, Chen Zhao really didn't know how to comfort people. In any case, West and the others looked as if their fathers had died. Why don't we go and deal with that Felix family today? Jolanash is still unconscious. I'm sure she wants us to wait for her. Jolene, is Nash badly hurt? Very. Take me to see her. Enner stayed by Jolanash's side the whole time. He had been worried for the entire night. Chen Zhao came in to check on Jolanash's injuries. Enner stared at Chen Zhao with wide eyes. Mr. President, how is Jolanash? She's pretty badly hurt, but it's not life-threatening. When will she wake up? If you keep crying here, you'll probably wake her up. Then I won't cry. I'll go out and cry for a while more. Tell me what's going on. Enner stuttered for a long time but couldn't explain clearly. She didn't know what was going on either. It was mainly because she was too weak. Last night, Jolanash told her to stay away. In the end, Amada knocked her out. She was even a hostage. But she knew nothing about it. Whatever. Pretend I didn't ask. Keep crying. Patting Nar, Chen Zhao turned and left the room. Chen Zhao called West and walked around the man-made lake. Did you find the woman who escaped? No. Forget it. It doesn't matter where she hides. We'll find her family in the end. Chen Zhao waved his hand. Have you heard of that 1,000-year-old family? Do you know what's going on? I've heard a little. It's a name that appeared in the Middle Ages. It usually refers to families that have been around for hundreds or thousands of years and have a deep history. Have you heard of this Felix family? No, I've never heard of it. Nowadays, There are only a handful of millennium-old families left in Europe. There's no need to investigate them. For those families, this title is glory and wealth. Of course, it's also pressure. However, there's basically no family that would deliberately conceal their identity and hide in order to reduce the pressure. So, this Felix family probably has some tricks up their sleeves. You're saying that this Felix family isn't an ancient family in Europe? President, how long has it been since the American continent was discovered? The real Great Immigration era is even shorter, so there can't be a 1,000-year-old family in America. Even South America doesn't have one. So, if this Felix family is really a 1,000-year-old family, it must be from Europe. But didn't you say that the 1,000-year-old families in Europe can be counted on your fingers? I didn't say that they came recently. Now, the biggest possibility is that they came decades ago, or even hundreds of years ago. Maybe they were hunted in Europe, or their clan was exterminated, so they fled to the American continent and hid their identity. This is the most likely possibility. This is the only way to explain why I have never heard of this 1,000-year-old family. Chen Zhao thought about it and said, I'll go find a professional and ask about it. Chen Zhao walked a few steps and turned back. If something like this happens again, I hope you can inform me immediately. West nodded. This time, he didn't argue. It was because of his blind confidence and arrogance. It had almost led to a disaster. Of course, this battle had made him realize. Right now, the top combatants of the supernatural organization were still not the best. At the very least, they were helpless against enemies like Amida, who had exquisite equipment all over her body. Chapter 2965. Mary, can I ask you something? Do you know about the Felix family? Chen Zhao called 23rd Blood Mary. Felix family? Where did you hear about this old family? Not long ago, a group of people calling themselves the Felix family attacked the supernatural organization. At the time, my subordinates thought that they could solve the problem, so they didn't inform me. In the end, there were some losses. I don't know if you're unlucky or if they're unlucky. They tried to take control of a country and use it to conquer all of Europe. As you can imagine, they violated a taboo and were defeated by the Allied forces led by my great-grandmother. In the following few years, they completely disappeared from the European continent. I didn't expect them to hide in the American continent. Maybe it's because of the spiritual energy tide. They probably want to take control of the North American spiritual world and then attack the European continent or take revenge on their past enemies. So, if I kill them, there won't be any negative effects, right? The Felix family is very strong. You want to remind me to be careful? No, I want to tell you that they're very strong. I don't understand. 300 years ago, before they were defeated, they once swept through more than a dozen countries in Europe. Through robbery and theft, they plundered a large amount of magical materials and magical tools. The Blood Mary family is also a 1,000-year-old family, but compared to the Felix family, we are as poor as beggars. Chen Zhao took out a cigarette. I have plenty of people. Chen Zhao finally understood the 23rd Blood Mary's intentions. She wanted a piece of the pie. But the meat was delivered to him. It was meat in his bowl. Why should he share it? I reckon that a large number of the members of the Fellner family are currently scattered outside. If my guess is correct, I reckon that those scattered members are carrying some important magic tools. Even if you go to their headquarters, you'll at most kill them to vent your anger. As for how many items you'll be able to obtain, I'm afraid it'll be a disappointing number. Chen Zhao narrowed his eyes. What do you have? It's very simple. As long as I spread the news that the Scarlet Church is going to wipe out the Felix family, I believe they will immediately become nervous. They will definitely recall their clansmen who are out and prepare for war with the Scarlet Church. 10% at most. You don't even have to do anything. It's free for you. How's that? Am I generous enough? Hee hee. Although the 23rd generation Blood Mary's body had turned into that of a baby, it didn't mean that her mind had degenerated. I want 50%. Forget it. It's the same if I go to Old Zhang or Zhang Tianyi. Their asking price won't be as harsh as yours. I can also send someone to help. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes. You sound like I can't handle it. Mary, the 23rd Blood, would never doubt Chen Zhao's strength. After all, Chen Zhao was the first Ascendance-level powerhouse in history. Moreover, Chen Zhao was different from others. He was a pure battle maniac. Back in the Shangqing territory, he possessed unparalleled battle prowess. Now, he had become an Ascendance Realm expert. His combat strength would probably reach an unimaginable level. Sometimes Mary, the 23rd generation Blood Mary, even regretted it. She had become a deity, but she was still a dabbler. Her combat strength didn't drop, but she didn't dare to use her full strength because she was a dabbler. Instead, Chen Zhao found a way to break through Shangqing after she became a deity and successfully reached the upper limit. Although she could use some of the theories and experiences Chen Zhao had provided, she couldn't improve completely according to Chen Zhao's path. But this thought only flashed by. Mary, the 23rd generation Blood Mary, had thought about the decision to become a deity carefully. No matter how bad it was, it could at least extend her life. But if she didn't become a deity, she definitely wouldn't have the chance to reach Ascendance Realm according to Chen Zhao's method. In this situation, the choice wasn't so difficult. The Felix family might still have some power. However, it was impossible for him to preserve his peak strength. So, the result of fighting Chen Zhao was obvious. Even the Felix family at their peak. They probably couldn't fight against someone of another level even if they gathered all their power. Just how strong was Chen Zhao? Mary, Zhang Tianyi, and Bifla had all guessed before. But before seeing Chen Zhao in action, they couldn't imagine it at all. Bifla isn't famous and might not attract the Felix family's attention. Celestial Master Zhang is too famous. He's not called the top person in the spiritual world for nothing, Mary said. The 23rd generation Blood Mary said, if Zhang Tianyi was allowed to spread the news, I reckon that the Feier family wouldn't gather their forces to fight back immediately. Instead, they would immediately disperse, just like they did hundreds of years ago. It's also possible that they would lie dormant for hundreds of years. There's only me and the Scarlet Church. Back then, the Blood Mary family and the Scarlet Church were the main forces against the Felix family. So the Felix family must have a deep-rooted hatred for us. If I announce that I'm going to fight the Felix family here, I think the Felix family won't run away no matter what. They'll definitely use this opportunity to fight me. He had to admit that what Mary said made sense. Chen Zhao thought for a while. If it was just revenge, it didn't matter. It was the same with or without Blood Mary. But when he heard that the Felix family was very rich and had a deep foundation, Chen Zhao was tempted. West and the others had also said this before. The woman who attacked them. She threw out all her divine artifacts like they were worthless. She didn't even treat them like they were divine artifacts. Just a junior of the Felix family. She had so many divine artifacts on her. How rich was the entire Felix family? Chen Zhao had never been someone who treated money as dirt. Moreover, there were many things that money couldn't buy. Revenge didn't stop plundering. The Felix family had been conquering North America with the attitude of plundering. Now that Chen Zhao treated them with the same attitude, he naturally wouldn't have any psychological burden. 20%, Chen Zhao said. No more. 40%. If you don't agree, forget it. 20%. Blood Mary, don't forget that you still need my help. 30%, but I hope you can do your best for that. Fine, 30%. Chen Zhao still accepted the cooperation. 30% was his bottom line. Chapter 2966. 3 days had passed. In these 3 days, everything seemed to have calmed down. Amrita had been maintaining her disguise. She wasn't in a hurry to go back. She was worried that the supernatural organization would guard the main roads or the hubs out of the city. So, she had been hiding in Los Angeles. She had prepared this hiding spot in advance. No matter how confident she was, she would arrange an escape route for herself. This was her responsibility for her own safety. If possible, she hoped that she would never have to use it in her life. However, she also did not expect that she would have to use her hiding spot so early. Of course, she didn't go out at all. That would only make her stand out. She went shopping and to the supermarket every day as usual. At the same time, she observed the situation in Los Angeles. She didn't feel anything different from usual. Los Angeles seemed very peaceful. Of course, it might also be because her information collection wasn't complete enough. But she really didn't feel any changes. It was as if the supernatural organization didn't do anything. But the more it was like this, the more panicked Amrita became. She didn't even dare to contact her family. The new generation of those families must have been captured. Some of them must have leaked information about their families. Her information would definitely be leaked too. Perhaps even his phone was being monitored by the other party. It was possible. After all, the Felix family had such methods too. The supernatural organization was the local tyrant here. They even had a government background. It was very easy for them to get help from these communication operators. So, Amatha even lost her phone. But without her phone, she couldn't contact her family. In order to maintain their secrecy, their families had a special way of contacting each other. If she could contact any random unknown number, then the Felix family would have died long ago. Amatha had been thinking about how to leave Los Angeles for the past few days. In the end, she decided to take a plane. LAX had a lot of people. There were hundreds of thousands of people coming and going every day. She wouldn't go to Seattle directly. She would fly to another area first and then go back to Seattle. That way, she wouldn't be tracked down. No news at all? No. That woman seems to have disappeared from Los Angeles. She probably escaped, Chen Zhao said. But never mind. I have to find her family anyway. She can run, but she can't escape the temple. President, when do we act? Jolene, how are Nash's injuries? She's awake, but she can't get off the ground. She also told us what happened that day. We received a request for help from the road administration. There were traces of magical beasts on one of the roads leading out of the city, and because of the magical beast's attack, it caused a bus to roll over. 4 people died, and more than a dozen were injured. Jalanash accepted this mission, but the magical beast was probably kept by that woman. She probably placed it there for some kind of ritual and transformation. He should be able to jump around in 2 days. Then he went to check on Jalanash. Jalanash's injuries were serious, but not fatal. Moreover, she had also performed emergency treatment after the incident, coupled with the timely rescue and Chen Zhao's personal treatment. Jolene Nash was clearly one of the impulsive Avengers. Therefore, in this revenge mission, no one would be missing, but she would not be missing. Of course, apart from her, all the members of the supernatural organization were excited. Even Aduz had said that this operation couldn't be done without him. Even Ruan Faxi was enthusiastic about his work. After all, the magic tools he'd made were actually inferior to others. How could he accept this? But there was nothing he could do about it. There were many materials in the warehouse of the supernatural organization's headquarters. But they were rather simple. Most of them were parts of the dragon's body. Dragon balls, dragon scales, and dragon horns were all materials for making divine artifacts. But they weren't the only materials. Thus, Ruan Faxi could only make some supreme magic tools at most. He couldn't make real magic tools. Secondly, Ruan Faxi's personal ability. Although Chen Zhao had provided many alchemy books from hell, skills couldn't be improved in a day. Moreover, divine artifacts couldn't be made by one person most of the time. Moreover, it would take a long time. It was very unlikely to make a divine artifact in a short time and put it on the assembly line. Moreover, the time span was relatively long. The possibility of creating a divine artifact in a short period of time and moving it to the assembly line was very small. However, Ruan Faxi's hard work couldn't make it in time for this operation. When Chen Zhao arrived at Ruan Faxi's workshop, he was mixing a mixture. When Chen Zhao arrived at Ruan Faxban's workshop, he was mixing a mixture. What kind of concoction is this? Chen Zhao picked up a concoction that had already been made. It was golden and looked quite pretty. Golden mixture. This concoction is extracted from the blood of the Quetzalcoatlus. After drinking it, a gold-like substance will form on the surface of the skin, giving it strong physical and magical resistance, Ruan Faxaban said. Chen Zhao drank it, but then he felt the mixture break down in his body. Guild leader, this toy is useless against you. Okay. Chen Zhao had expected this. Guild leader, do you remember what I told you last time? What? Chen Zhao had forgotten. It's about me recruiting an apprentice. Oh, about that. How is it? Has anyone chosen? There is a candidate, but that person is not easy to recruit. What's wrong? Was he asking for too much? Or does he have a special identity? He's a spiritualist from a declining family. He still has the attitude and habits of a noble, but his talent is unquestionable, Ruan Faxi said. He asks for better treatment than everyone in the association. Secondly, he doesn't want to leave his residence. He said that he's used to the environment and won't respond to any of our orders. Secondly, he wants us to provide him with large amounts of magic materials every month. At the same time, we can't interfere with his alchemy experiments or ask him to make magic tools outside of his plan. He can only make magic tools that he wants to make. Chen Zhao frowned. Are you sure he's looking for an apprentice? Not for Grandpa? Ruan Faxi smiled bitterly. Also, he wants us to help him deal with a local supernatural force. Chapter 2967. The person you like is drunk, isn't he? If Chen Zhao hadn't made so many requests, he would have made the request after Chen Zhao joined the supernatural organization. Then they would definitely agree. But Chen Zhao seemed to think that Chen Zhao was the boss. Such a request would only make Chen Zhao hate him more. Ruan Faxben was helpless too. Forget about this person. This world lacks many things, but it doesn't lack geniuses. Ruan Faxben nodded. He also knew that this guy wasn't suitable to join the supernatural organization. Or rather, even if he was suitable, no one would agree to his request. Chen Zhao glanced at Ruan Faxben's workshop. What potions are these? Ruan Faxben explained everything one by one. He was speechless at the president. Chen Zhao dared to stuff all the good and bad things into his mouth. His suggestions were also very unreliable. Can you add some strawberry flavor? President, I'm quite busy right now. Oh, go ahead. I won't disturb you. Ruan Faxben risked being beaten by Chen Zhao. President, you'll disturb me if you stay here. Fine, fine. I'll leave. Chen Zhao walked out of Ruan Faxben's workshop. His phone rang. It was Bader. Mr. Chen, can we meet? Do we still need to meet? Mr. Chen, I'm sincere. I won't lose anything if we meet, right? Fine. Where do we meet? Actually, Chen Zhao was already mentally prepared for Bader's meeting. It had only been less than a week, and Bader had called again. Bader asked Chen Zhao to meet at a restaurant on the coastline. The scenery here was even better than the restaurant at the top of the building last time. When Chen Zhao arrived, Bader was already there. Is this your restaurant too? Yes, to be precise. I bought this place after I sold that restaurant. Why? That restaurant's turnover shouldn't be low, right? Bader smiled but didn't answer Chen Zhao's question. Chen Zhao suddenly thought of something and couldn't help but laugh. Bader was afraid that Chen Zhao would take revenge. Mr. Chen, I came with sincerity this time. What do you think about my request last time? Not much, and your reason for refusing is very strange, so I can't help but suspect that you have ulterior motives. Bader sighed. Well, to tell you the truth, I was bragging last time. Odin's treasury isn't as rich as you think. Are you kidding me? That's the king of Pantheon's treasury. I'm afraid there's no other place in the world that's more valuable than his treasury. I'm serious. Bader looked at Chen Zhao awkwardly. During the Battle of Dusk, the gods fell. Odin had to take out his collection from his treasury to increase the gods' power or to reward the gods with outstanding battle achievements. But you know the end result. The gods still failed in the end and the eternal night descended. Now, there's less than 10% of the treasures left in Odin's treasury. If you bring your companions, even if you win in the end, there won't be enough to split. Bader paused and said, also, just like how you don't trust me, I don't have absolute trust in you either. Chen Zhao shrugged and did not deny it. In any case, everyone was wary of each other. This was everyone's consensus. There was no need to explain anything. I'm very sincere in this cooperation, but there's also a risk, Bader said. Bader said, if it's just you, even if I can't defeat you, at least I have the ability to not be killed by you. But if your friends are here, they might not be able to kill me, but they definitely have a way to seal me. Everything Bader said made sense. But this could not convince Chen Zhao. It was just like what Bader had said. He didn't trust Chen Zhao. Similarly, Chen Zhao didn't trust him either. In a battle, it would be very dangerous if you didn't have a reliable teammate by your side. This meant that you couldn't go all out when facing the enemy. You had to reserve some power at all times to guard against your teammates. Moreover, Bader wasn't asking him to deal with just any random person. He was the king of gods in Norse mythology. According to Bader, the king of gods was only left with a remnant soul. But whoever dared to underestimate the king of gods would die a horrible death. How about this? Bader said. I can promise you that I'll give you 5 chances to choose the spoils after this is done. Chen Zhao still shook his head. He didn't care what Bader promised. No matter what Bader promised, he couldn't change his mind. Seeing that Chen Zhao was still unmoved, Bader began to panic. I can give you a treasure in advance, Bader said. At the same time, he took out a bottle of medicine. What's this? Blood of gods. It can make a baby god evolve into a mature one. I think your friend really needs this, right? Chen Zhao didn't comment. He still didn't accept or reject. Bader sighed and gave in again. I can give you a spot. You can bring along a friend you can trust. Bader, if there's nothing else, I'm leaving, Chen Zhao said, standing up. Wait. Bader stopped Chen Zhao again. Is there anything else? God of Light. 2. Bader said with a dark expression. Bring 2 people. Whether to help you fight or to guard against me, it should be enough. No 3, Chen Zhao said firmly. And I want 10 chances to choose the spoils. You're asking too much. You know that there are only a dozen treasures left in the treasury, but now you want more than half. You're too greedy. I'm very curious. Is it Odin's treasury that you want? Or Asgard? If you want Odin's treasury, I'm afraid I'm not a good partner. Just like you said, I'm just that greedy. If you want Asgard, you should be prepared to pay the price instead of bargaining with me here. Bader's expression was one of indecision. Chen Zhao drank his wine unhurriedly. It wasn't because he didn't want anything. It was because Bader had made his decision long ago. If he wanted to reject, he would have done so already. He wouldn't be hesitating here. Chen Zhao still didn't trust Bader. This included his every move, every look, every action, and even his current hesitation. Finally, Bader sighed and raised his head to look at Chen Zhao. Fine. I hope you and your companion can keep our agreement. I don't want to fight you. Believe me, I might not be able to beat you, but I can definitely create a disaster. You definitely don't want me to do that. Chapter 2968. That's basically what he said. After separating from Bader, Chen Zhao went to find Zhang Tianyi, Bifla, and 23rd Blood Mary. He told the 3 of them about his conversation with Bader, and asked them to help him analyze it. Let's make a hypothesis, Bifla said first. Let's say that Bader has evil intentions. Of course, it's very likely. Everyone nodded and waited for Bifla to continue. Let's say that his target was Chen Zhao from the start. No matter what, it's him, Bifla said, pointing at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao rubbed his nose. I don't think so. Apart from beating him up, I didn't do anything else. Bifla continued, destroying Odin's soul and obtaining Asgard might be real, or it might just be a pretense. Perhaps he hopes that both of you will be injured so that he can reap the benefits. But the possibility of this is very small. Why is it small? Chen Zhao retorted. I think it's more likely. Bifla shook his head. If destroying Odin's soul is his main goal, he won't reject us because our participation will greatly increase the success rate. On the other hand, if he rejects us, the success rate will decrease. So Bader's goal isn't to destroy Odin's soul and obtain ownership of Asgard. Chen Zhao finally understood Bifla's logic. So, it's most likely that he's targeting you. Is this guy really that narrow-minded? Chen Zhao was confused. It's fine if he's petty, but he's taking a huge risk. Do you think it's possible for him to take such a risk to take revenge on me? He might have some secret weapon to deal with you. Of course, as a person who values benefits, if it's just your past grudges, there's really no need for him to deliberately deal with you, unless there's some benefit in dealing with you. Everyone looked at Chen Zhao. Bifla continued, think about it carefully. What exactly do you have that he wants, or what did you take from him unintentionally? Chen Zhao didn't understand, and the others were even more confused. He rejected us in the beginning, but now he accepts our participation. Why is that? Does he have a way to deal with all 4 of us at once? Chen Zhao felt that only an idiot would deal with all 4 of them at once. Even Chen Zhao's head would explode if he had to deal with 2 of them. Not to mention the 4 of them. Bader was not at this level. With his intelligence, it was impossible for him to make such a stupid decision. He doesn't have to deal with all 4 of us at the same time. Bifla said. If he had a helper, he could have stalled the 3 of us first, and then he would have used his secret weapon to finish you off in the shortest time possible. Do I look that easy? Chen Zhao asked helplessly. The seal can be considered a weakness, Bifla said. If that's the case, there's no need to worry too much. With Chen Zhao's current strength, it's almost impossible for him to be sealed for a long time. Even if he finds a few people of the same level and uses a large number of god artifacts, they'll only be able to suppress Chen Zhao for a short period of time at most, Zhang Tianyi said meaningfully. Chen Zhao glanced at Zhang Tianyi. He seemed to have noticed something. Did you gain something recently? I've officially reached Ascendance level now. You didn't really enter it before. Bifla asked in astonishment. It's not that it's not Ascendance level. It's perfection. That's what it means. What's the difference? My strength is about the same. There's a slight improvement, but it's nothing compared to my original strength, Chen Zhao said. The real improvement is that I've perfected my internal and external worlds. Now, I no longer need to absorb spiritual qi from the outside world. My internal world will produce spiritual qi on its own. Everyone gasped. They couldn't help but look at Chen Zhao more seriously. Of course, they knew what this change meant to a cultivator. To a certain extent, Chen Zhao had truly achieved an inexhaustible supply of magic. That's why I said I can't suppress you anymore, Zhang Tianyi said. How did you know? Chen Zhao asked in astonishment. I've just formed my internal world not long ago. Chen Zhao was also the first to discover the cultivation method of his internal world and share it with the 3 of them. Now that Zhang Tianyi was the first to form his internal world, no one was surprised. Instead, it was reasonable. Chen Zhao nodded. No wonder. Zhang Tianyi probably felt that his aura was different from his own through his internal world. That was why he made such a guess. The specialty of the seal was to seal the spiritual qi in the world. The sealed person would no longer be able to absorb the spiritual qi. In the end, the sealed person would run out of magic because they couldn't feel the spiritual qi anymore. Or they would seal themselves and wait for the day they could see the light of day again. But Chen Zhao couldn't be sealed now. Because the spiritual qi was sealed, Chen Zhao's power couldn't be cut off. Unless there were a few beings at the same level as Chen Zhao who kept maintaining the seal. Otherwise, Chen Zhao would break the seal sooner or later. Therefore, most seals were useless against Chen Zhao. Of course, the scariest thing about intelligent beings was that they could come up with all sorts of unimaginable methods. Chen Zhao wasn't sure if there would be a new method to seal Ascendance powerhouses in the future. For example, Zhang Tianyi would be the second person to reach Ascendance. Zhang Tianyi was undoubtedly the most likely person. Therefore, Chen Zhao didn't doubt that he would develop a new sealing spell. Perhaps the purpose of this sealing spell was to restrain him. If Balder has a detailed plan to deal with all of us, then Chen Zhao will be the trump card to turn the situation around. I have an opinion about this operation, said Mary, the 23rd Blood Mari. Everyone couldn't help but look at Blood Mary. To be honest, she was the one with the highest risk in this mission. She couldn't use her full power and she was weaker than when she was at her peak. Secondly, she wasn't that familiar with her power. It was also possible that Bader had a specific counter to the 23rd Blood Mary. Blood Mary glanced at the 3. Maybe I know what the God of Light wants to do. What does he want to do? You know? I'm not sure, but I think my guess might be right. Then tell me, what does he want to do? Not him. It's them. Chapter 2969. The point of having companions was that when you weren't confident, your companions would back you up. With the help and advice of the other 3, Chen Zhao was confident. However, it was only a temporary cooperation with Bader. Bader hadn't told Chen Zhao when it would be implemented. Chen Zhao wasn't in a hurry. He guessed that Bader still needed to prepare. Chen Zhao naturally had to prepare as well. After all, he was facing a god, and there might be more than one. So, Chen Zhao had to be more careful. Even though he was already in the Ascension realm and was known as the strongest in history. But Chen Zhao didn't have the right to be arrogant and ignore everything. The Felix family, The upper echelons were currently gathered together for a family meeting. Dear family members, I have a piece of unfortunate news to tell you. Chief Tabby Phillimore stood up. The upper echelons sitting on the two sides were still minding their own business, whispering in groups of 2 or 3. Most people didn't take the chief's speech to heart. It wasn't that the chief wasn't dignified. To them, this was just a routine family meeting. The content of the discussion was basically the same old stuff. They said that the training of the new generation had to be done quickly, or that those on missions outside had to be careful. Or that someone in charge of transporting resources had made a mistake and said that they would be held accountable according to the family rules. Tabby Farrer's lowered gaze swept across everyone present. Not long ago, there was news from Europe that the Blood Mary family and the Scarlet Church they represent are going to declare war on us. In an instant, the entire place fell silent. Everyone looked at Tabby Felix in shock. What? The Blood Mary family is going to declare war on us? Why? Why are they waging war on us? Damn, are their eyes and ears so accurate? We've been hiding for 300 years. A whole 300 years. We've just come out and they can't wait to declare war? Shut up. Tabby Felix slammed the table heavily. I didn't gather all of you here to listen to your ruckus. President, what do we do now? Tabby Felix looked at the pairs of terrified eyes. He was somewhat disappointed in them. As expected, the rise of the clan couldn't depend on them. Since the Blood Mary family wants to start a war, let's start a war, Tabby Felix said calmly. Clan leader, we can't start a war. Yes. Chief, we've been lying low for the past 300 years. Our family's power is no longer at its peak, but the Blood Mary family has been expanding with the help of the Scarlet Church. We can't defeat the Blood Mary family. Shut up. Have you all forgotten the hatred of 300 years? At this moment, a rough voice sounded. The one who spoke was Tabby Felix's younger brother, Tintuck Felix. Tintuck Philip was his elder brother's staunchest supporter. The two brothers could be considered the perfect combination. Tabby Felix was good at strategizing, but his strength had never been the best in the family. But it was precisely because of his brother's support that Tabby Felix was able to become the clan leader. Tintuck Philur was the strongest of his generation in the family. It could even be said that he was the most outstanding genius in the last 300 years. However, his personality was straightforward and violent, so there was no need to talk about schemes. Most of the time, he couldn't even be bothered to listen to a complete sentence. To him, when he could fight, he would try not to talk. At the same time, the brothers were unswervingly pro-war. But the difference in strength is obvious. Someone raised a different objection. On the contrary, perhaps the current Blood Mary family doesn't understand our family's strength at all. Perhaps even you don't understand our family's strength. Our Philur family has never been weak, and now we're stronger than we were in the past 300 years. We're even stronger than when we were the enemy of Europe 300 years ago, Tabby Felix said. The Blood Mary family thinks that after 300 years of dormancy, we've long been weakened beyond recognition. They think that we're pushovers and want to strangle us in the cradle, so they might not send out all their strength. They don't know that our family has only been asleep for 300 years. Now, we're more energetic than ever before. The war 300 years ago brought hatred and humiliation to our family. First, we'll destroy the vanguard team sent by the Blood Mary family, then take advantage of the situation to kill our way back to Europe and once again establish the glory of our Philur family, Tintuck Philur said excitedly. Of course, he couldn't say these words himself. His elder brother, Tabby Philur, taught him to say them. I object. We haven't even purged the supernatural world in North America. It's a very unwise choice to rashly start a war with the Blood Mary family. You should know that this generation's Blood Mary is a very powerful spiritualist. She's known as the strongest Blood Mary since ancient times, and the current #1 spiritualist in Europe. She'll definitely be involved in this war. However, in the next instant, a bloody mark suddenly appeared on the neck of this opposing clansman. His head slowly slid down and rolled on the conference table. Everyone's hair stood on end in an instant. Who was it? Who dared to commit murder in a family meeting? And they even killed a high-ranking member. Just then, a cloud of black gas surged out of the ventilation duct. The black gas gathered together, and a person walked out of the black gas. This person was tall and had a seemingly youthful face, but his eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of life. This person carried a sword alone, and his gaze swept across everyone present. Tabby Fleur immediately walked in front of this person with aged steps. Great-grandfather. Yes, you've done well, this person said calmly. At the same time, his cold gaze swept across everyone present. The Fleur family doesn't need cowards, and we definitely don't need weaklings. This person was the one who had migrated the Fleur family to the American continent back then. He was the golden generation of the Fleur family, and the eldest son of the Fleur family 300 years ago. He was known as the Golden Genius Gunter Fleur. After he turned the tide and saved the family, he fell into a deep sleep together with a group of Golden Generation members at the same time. And it was precisely because of the ancestral teachings that he had left. When they woke up again, it would be the beginning of the War of Revenge. Since then, the Fleur family had always followed his instructions and kept a low profile. If you don't even have the courage to face your enemies, then you don't even have the value of existing, Gunter Fleur said coldly. Chapter 2970. Jolinash, how's your recovery? We can leave any time, Jolinash answered. Leave that woman to me. Are you confident? Chen Zhao asked. You know, she suppressed all our captains by herself. I accidentally broke through. Chen Zhao studied Jolinash up and down. If Jolinash hadn't said it, Chen Zhao really wouldn't have noticed her change. But now that Jolinash said that, Chen Zhao could vaguely feel that something had changed in her. Territory? No, not yet. I seem to have grasped something important. This should be the territory you mentioned, but it's too vague. Jolinash had gotten the first step, but she hadn't really touched it yet. She wasn't even half a step into Shangqing now. But she was undoubtedly one step faster than the others. Chen Zhao didn't expect that Jolinash would be the first to touch Shangqing. Or rather, close, Gaia, Norma, Halle's, and Enrich were strong. But they still hadn't felt a territory. Jocelyn Nash definitely counted from the back of the group. But she was the first to feel it. This surprised Chen Zhao greatly. Confident? No. That woman has too many divine artifacts. Chen Zhao couldn't do anything about it. After all, the supernatural organization didn't have a strong foundation. They didn't have any divine artifacts. No, there was actually one. It was the Tower of Trials. It could actually be used to smash people. But no one but Chen Zhao could move it now. Do you want me to help you get rid of her divine artifacts and then you can have a fair fight with her? Jolinash shook her head. If the president fights, there won't be any fairness. The supernatural organization chartered a flight. In less than 3 hours, the group arrived in Seattle. Seattle was still in the rainy season in April. As soon as they got off the plane, they were greeted by a downpour. West pushed DeWico and the others onto a big bus. The Fellner captive's main purpose now was to lead the way. Right now, a pair of eyes were watching the supernatural organization's arrival. Amida. She had just returned to Seattle from another area. However, the moment she got off the plane, she noticed the people from the supernatural organization. And he brought Dwiko and others with him. Are they here? Had they finally come? Amita's eyes were deep. He felt uneasy. No, I have to rush back to the clan as soon as possible and pass on the news. Amita dared not delay. Right now, the family still did not know that a powerful enemy was approaching. However, when she returned to the family encampment, Amita realized that the atmosphere was a little strange. Amita, you're back. I heard you were in California. How is it? Is everything going well? The one who welcomed Amita was Amitha's childhood playmate, Audrey, who was also a genius like Amita. Audacy welcomed them warmly, but Amita did not look happy. Where is the patriarch? I want to see the patriarch. Patriarch is in the front hall. Wait. I'll go with you. Audacy followed Amita. She could tell that Amita seemed to have something very important to do. Otherwise, he would have the time to exchange pleasantries with her. Tabby Fellner was entertaining the guests. Amita waited outside the hall for a while. Amita waited until the guests had left before entering. Amita, you're back, Tabby Fellner said. I've been contacting you for the past few days, but it's as if you've vanished into thin air. Not only you, but even the team you led has disappeared. Patriarch, the California operation failed, Amita said. My people were all captured. Ha! Tabby Fellner's first reaction was not to be angry or criticize Amitha's incompetence. Instead, she raised her head, her eyes filled with doubt. As far as I know, there are no powerful organizations or individuals in California. Yes, there is an organization that the intelligence team overlooked. It's the Supernatural Organization. A very powerful organization. I fought with their top experts. I almost used up all my trump cards, but I still could not suppress them, Amitha said solemnly. Amitha said seriously, also, the leader of the Supernatural Organization didn't show up. When I broke into their headquarters, I found a lot of dragon remains that had been slaughtered. Their leader has the power to slay dragons. When I rushed back, I found them at Seattle Airport. They must be here for revenge. Don't panic. Just then, Gunter Fellner walked in. The Fellner family is invincible now, Gunter Fellner said calmly. All the clansmen who went out have returned, and the sleepers have woken up. The divine items that have been covered by time will see the light of day again. The revenge of a small organization is not worth mentioning to the family. Gunter Phillimore said indifferently. Gunter Fellner was very confident. But Amitha could not relax. We should at least prepare. Maybe they'll come tonight, Amitha said. All right, Amitha, Tabby Fellner said. You don't have to worry about this. After persuading Amitha to leave, Gunter Fellner said, they might have heard about the war between the Bloodmary family and the Fellners, so they're here to take advantage of us. Don't give them any chances. Yes, Great-Grandpa, I understand. I know what to do. Bring some of the younger generation along. Fight well and cheer up the emotions of those children. Recently, those children have been a little depressed. Bring Amitha along as well. She is one of the few children who have inherited my bloodline. However, she seems to be a little frightened by this operation. This battle can ease her emotions. Gunter Felix paused for a moment, then said, the other party has the ability to slay dragons, which means that their combat power is not weak. With victory as our priority, it would be a good choice if we could recruit them under our command. If our family wants to stand at the peak of the supernatural world again, just relying on the people in our family is not enough. We need more resources and manpower. If there are powerhouses who are willing to submit to us, then we can also welcome them with open arms. Great-Grandpa, then I'll bring that thing and show them that I'm strong enough. Yes, I don't need to teach you how to do it. Just do what you want. Gunter Fellner looked outside. The rain did not seem to be stopping. Instead, it was getting heavier, and the sky was getting darker. Chapter 2971. Nature surrounded them with green mountains and clear waters. What a nice view. Chen Zhao looked at the beautiful forest before him. If the weather was better, we could make this a tourist spot, Gaia said. But this damned world ruined our trip. The person who'd chosen this land must be a feng shui expert. Chen Zhao didn't understand feng shui, but he could feel the spiritual qi here. Wind and clouds gathered, and dragons and tigers roared. Chen Zhao shook his windbreaker and continued walking into the forest. Stop. This is private land. Who are you? You don't look like normal people. Just then, a figure walked out from behind a tree. Chen Zhao glanced at the person who'd stopped him. He was very weak. He was probably an outer member of the Fellner family, and was only in charge of security. Uncle, I found more than a dozen suspicious people in the forest south of the family's territory. After reporting, the Fellner family member looked at Chen Zhao's group warily. Did you notify them? You better behave. Our family will be here soon. Pop. The next moment, the person's head exploded. The nameless corpse lay in the forest in the rain. No one cared about him. It was as if he'd never appeared. Chief, someone in charge of patrolling the area went missing. Before he went missing, he reported that a group of strangers entered the area. Tabby Fellner's eyes flew open. They're here? You're brave. Chief, should we inform people to stop the intruders? No, let them in, Tabby Fellner said. Go get Amitha and the others. A while later, Amitha and the others arrived. Chief. Yes, outsiders have entered the family area. They'll probably be here in half an hour. The young people were all rubbing their palms. Only Amitha was unusually calm. After walking in the forest for more than 20 minutes, they finally saw a building before them. Just then, a group of people blocked their path. Tabby Philip looked down at Chen Zhao's group with a condescending gaze. Stop. Chen Zhao pulled down his rain hat. Everyone from the supernatural organization did the same. Amethy's pupils constricted. It was the man who had appeared at Ellie's wedding. Chen Zhao also saw Ametha. Calm down. Ametha. Tabby Felix sensed Amethy's panic. To us, this is just a group of ordinary enemies. In your future life, you will meet many enemies like this. You won't even remember their faces and magic. Ametha took a deep breath and tried to calm herself down. Chen Zhao lifted his hand and waved it forward. An unprecedented sense of danger welled up in Ametha's heart. Be careful. Ametha cried out in alarm, at the same time maintaining the protection of the immortal. Then she saw countless raindrops breaking free from the shackles of gravity. It was like a real hail of bullets, shooting towards them. Ah! No! Tabby Farrell looked down at the large bloodstain on his chest. Looking around, he saw 7 or 8 outstanding youngsters lying in pools of blood. Ametha only felt that the rain made her feel cold all over. Her immortal protection shattered in an instant. In just an instant, the other party's terrifying strength had already been displayed. Ah! I'm going to kill you! Roaring, Tabby Farrell suddenly pulled out a silver sword. Terrifying power surged from the sword into Tabby Farrell's body. In that instant, Tabby Farrell's aura increased 10-fold, 100-fold. However, a thug grabbed Tabby Farrell's face at that moment. Under everyone's gaze, Tabby Farrell's head was crushed. Under everyone's gaze, Tabby Farrell's head exploded. Chen Zhao picked up the silver sword. Looks like this is a divine artifact. Chen Zhao pointed his sword at the remaining geniuses of the Felix family. Apart from her, you can go back now. Tell your leaders and higher-ups that we're here for revenge. The supernatural organization is here for revenge. They are here to destroy your Felix family. You have 10 minutes to prepare. The geniuses of the Felix family looked at each other. They didn't know if they should tell the enemy before them. Tabby Farrell, whom he'd just killed, was their leader. But in the end, no one spoke. Everyone was running away from the intruder. Looking at the fleeing figures, dozens of black balls appeared in Chen Zhao's palm. In an instant, he caught up with those who were running away. They didn't expect that the intruder who'd asked them to inform them would suddenly attack them from behind. Why did he launch a deadly attack at their backs in the next moment? Seeing her playmates, her family, and her siblings die before her, Ametha finally couldn't keep calm anymore. Why? Why did you do that? I suddenly feel like it's stupid to ask the enemy to inform us, Chen Zhao said casually, shrugging. President, the commotion you made just now was enough to alert everyone. Let's see if there's anything valuable on those kids. Chen Zhao didn't forget that he wasn't here for revenge. He was also here to rob the Farrell family. The others all went to pick up the corpses. Only Jolinash didn't move. She looked at Ametha calmly. Ametha seemed to have sensed Jolinash's intention. Without wasting time, 3 gems landed on the ground. Flame Treader, Quetzalcoatlus, and Griffin were summoned. I'll be the judge. Chen Zhao glanced at the 3 disaster-level magical beasts. 2 black balls shot toward Quetzalcoatlus and Griffin. In an instant, the heads of Quetzalcoatl and Griffin exploded. The 2 gems in Ametha's hands shattered. Okay, I'm a fair and just judge. Chen Zhao had an approachable smile on his face. Jolinash, have fun. Ametha didn't criticize anything. Fairness never existed in this world. It was just like when she and her subordinates had attacked Jolinash. She had so many artifacts, but Jolinash was just one person. It was the same logic as when the hostage was in Ametha's hands. Now, Jolinash was Chen Zhao's, so it was natural that Chen Zhao would help her. Suddenly, Chen Zhao felt many unbelievably powerful auras descend from the sky. Is the master here? Chen Zhao looked up at the sky. The higher-ups of the Farrell family were all here, as well as the golden generation of the Farrell family. It was still the same condescending attitude, the same condescending attitude. Chapter 2972. Brother. Tintuck Felix let out a sorrowful howl. Tabby Felix's head was crushed by Chen Zhao. However, Tintuck Philomore still recognized the corpse as his elder brother. Who did it? Who killed you? Tiantuk Philomore's eyes were bloodshot as he glanced at everyone present. In the end, he locked his gaze on Chen Zhao, who was holding the silver holy sword. It's you, right? Tintuk Felix's entire body was emitting violent elements. His hair became like a blazing flame. His pupils were bursting with lightning. Powerful wind elements kept rippling from his body. He controlled water and fire with his palms. I'll kill you! I'll kill you! Tintuk Felix roared and charged at Chen Zhao like a wild beast. Chen Zhao reached out and sliced. Half of Tintuk Felix's body fell. His expression froze. Along with him, the trees on the dozen acres of land before him were sliced off. Gunter Felix looked down at Chen Zhao. Tintuk Felix's death didn't seem to affect him too much. Sir, who gave you the courage to kill people in the Felix family? If you can kill others, others can naturally kill you. Isn't this a very simple logic? You think you have the right. Chen Zhao smiled. What do you think? I admire your courage, but you picked the wrong opponent. Gunter Felix looked at Chen Zhao coldly. He lifted his arm and revealed a golden glove. You don't understand what you're facing. Now, offer your knees and then use 100 years of servitude to exchange for the Felix family's forgiveness. With that, Gunter clenched his golden glove. A terrifying pressure smashed onto Chen Zhao's head. Kneel. Offer up your fear and submission. However, Chen Zhao didn't move. He looked at Gunter Felix in the air and sneered. Are you done with your juggling? You. How is that possible? Suddenly, Chen Zhao appeared before Gunter Felix. Gunter Felix's combat skills were really good. His reaction was extremely fast, and he immediately tried to retreat. But Chen Zhao was even faster. In the blink of an eye, he had already grabbed Gunter's wrist. Ah! Gunter's gold-gloved right hand was ripped off. Chen Zhao casually tossed the severed arm away. He picked up the golden gloves and put them on. Looks good, Chen Zhao said, admiring himself. Gunter Felix's expression was very ugly. No one knew if it was because of Chen Zhao's humiliation or the pain from his broken arm. Kill him! Kill him! Kill him at all costs! Bang! A bolt of lightning landed on Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao looked at the woman who was flirting with him. In the blink of an eye, the woman's chest had been pierced by his fist. The supernatural organization had already started a war with the Philo family. However, most of the experts were attracted by Chen Zhao. But the supernatural organization still did not have the advantage in numbers. Furthermore, there were simply too many experts in the Felix family. So the situation didn't seem too optimistic for the supernatural organization. However, the recent victories and defeats would ultimately be decided by the high-end battlefields. And as the battle became more and more intense, the Felix family had no choice but to send more people. Sleepers kept falling from the sky. Chen Zhao could no longer stop. Right now, his eyes were bloodshot. Almost all of his attacks drew blood. No matter what kind of attack it was no different from tickling him. The higher-ups of the Felix family also realized this. The invader this time wasn't some random cat or dog. It wasn't some clown either. It was a true maleficent existence. This meant that they could only keep using powerful divine artifacts. They tried to use divine artifacts to turn the situation around. After Gunter Felix fought Chen Zhao and suffered a huge loss, he had been pacing around the edge of the battlefield. Suddenly, he realized that Chen Zhao was intentionally distancing himself from his subordinates. Gunter Felix suddenly realized that something was wrong. Don't let him leave the battlefield over there, Gunter Felix exclaimed. But just then, hundreds of small black balls suddenly appeared around Chen Zhao. Go! Chen Zhao was waiting for someone to leave his side. Only in this way could he unleash a wide area of effect killing move without any restrictions. In an instant, the surrounding buildings collapsed. Half of the Felix family surrounding Chen Zhao disappeared in the blink of an eye. The remaining half looked left and right in disbelief and confusion. Gunter Felix was about to vomit blood. How could a guy of unknown origin have such terrifying combat power? After all, the family had gathered a force to deal with the Bloodmary family. However, the main character hadn't even arrived yet. Instead, an inexplicable person came and actually crippled their family. Just then, two old men suddenly entered the battlefield. Gunter, step back. Leave this to me. These two were also sleepers. They were Gunter Felix's uncle and grandfather. They were survivors of the war. In particular, Gunter Felix's grandfather had been the strongest person in Europe 300 years ago. Back then, they'd also fallen into a deep sleep, but it only slowed down the loss of their life force. It didn't make them truly immortal. Now that Gunter Felix's grandfather had woken up, his life force had reached its limit. 1 or 2 battles would drain him of his life force. Originally, he'd saved his life force to deal with the Bloodmary family. But now, he couldn't sit around and do nothing anymore. Chen Zhao looked at Gunter Felix's grandfather. Interesting old guy. I've never heard of you before. His opponent was very strong. Chen Zhao even felt that he wasn't weaker than Bloodmary. Also, what was with his exuberant combat power? Chen Zhao seemed to recall the night when Bloodmary had become a god. She'd burned her original power like crazy. This old man seemed to be doing the same. Was he planning to become a god too? The other was also very strong. He looked slightly younger and was also in the Shangqing state. But the oldest one was still the strongest. The old man's clothes were almost torn apart by his muscles. Terrifying power seemed to be gushing out of his soft body. The other, who was slightly younger, was surrounded by thousands of magic balls. Young man, leave. This war ends here. The old man panted like a bull, his eyes bloodshot. I said I'd kill your family, so I'll keep my word. Dang. In that instant, the old man seemed to have become 100 years younger, becoming a tall and sturdy man. It was a very simple punch, a punch that was casually thrown out. Chen Zhao was much more casual. He also raised his arm and punched. Chapter 2973. The old man stared at Chen Zhao in shock. His right arm was dripping with blood, hanging limply on his shoulder. It was completely useless. However, the old man didn't seem to mind it at all. After all, he wouldn't even be able to survive after this battle. So, it didn't matter if his arm was useless. What he really cared about was the power he'd released in that instant after burning his life force. It was more than 10 times stronger than his peak. He was even confident that he could kill a dragon father with this punch. But facing the man before him, he felt that Chen Zhao was as tall and majestic as a mountain. His punch that he'd put all his strength into couldn't even test Chen Zhao's strength. Father! The slightly younger old man saw his father's tragic state. The elemental balls around him shot wildly at Chen Zhao. But the balls dissipated the moment they got close to Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao clenched his hand and a dark red neutron star condensed in his palm. The two old men immediately sensed danger. Kobold! The older man charged at his son. Like an old dog that knew his destiny, he instantly understood where he belonged. Chen Zhao also slapped out the dark red neutron star. Boom! The ring of fire covered the entire sky above the Philip family. Everyone raised their heads to look at the sky. Everyone felt the power of destruction, or rather, they felt the power of destruction itself. Kobold Philip fell to the ground. Almost all of his hair had been burned away. Worst of all, the destructive power had pierced through his body, rolling and wreaking havoc inside. This was a fatal blow that his father had blocked for him at the cost of his own life. His father didn't even leave a corpse behind. Amida and Jolanash were locked in a fierce battle. Jolanash was in a surprisingly good state right now. She felt like she'd never felt this way before. Amida, on the other hand, was already exhausted. Then Chen Zhao killed the griffin and serpent god. As for the remaining flame treader, she still seemed to have the absolute advantage. But she couldn't suppress Jolanash, who was raging with battle intent. Just then, the destructive flames covered the entire sky. Amida was dazed. Jolanash was also dazed for a moment. Be it friend or foe, they all felt a power that could destroy everything. Amida once thought. The Felix family could resist any enemy, any power. But at this moment she understood. In front of true terror, the Felix family was nothing. He was once an expert that he was proud of. He was once an unparalleled divine weapon. This would not bring about a favorable turn for the Felix family. How many clansmen and compatriots would die in this war? Do you see that? This is your enemy. As an elementalist, Jolanash had the most intuitive feeling. Must you be so ruthless? Jolene gave Amida a sneering look. In just a few days of investigation, We've already found out a lot about the actions of your Felix family. In the North American region, the number of casualties that you've caused on the surface has already exceeded 100, and the number of casualties in the dark is several times higher. How many of them actually don't have any organization or power? They're all living the lives of ordinary people. Just because they're spiritualists, or because they have some kind of magical equipment, magical books, or even materials in their hands, they're wiped out by you. Countless ordinary people have been implicated. So what right do you have to pray? What right do you have to pray? Amada was dazed. Suddenly, her gaze became firm again. Since praying doesn't work, let's fight. Jalanash, however, calmed down. You can't really control the flame treader as you wish, so you can't beat me now. I heard that you have a divine weapon that can temporarily transfer the magical beast's power to yourself. You can use that move. This should be your last chance. Yeah, I almost forgot about that, Amada said with a smile, but her smile looked a little forced. Using the divine weapon to borrow the power of a magical beast could indeed allow one to reach unimaginable power in a short time. But this method had a price too. The flame treader suddenly turned into a ball of flames and melted into Ametha's body. Right now, Ametha's entire body was on fire. Once again, Jalanash's fighting spirit rose. At the same time, in the center of the battlefield. It was also the Felix family's territory. Right now, it was unrecognizable. Everyone in the Felix family stared at Chen Zhao with hatred and fear. The pain Chen Zhao had brought them was even greater than the war 300 years ago. Many of them were survivors of the war 300 years ago. But now, they died in Chen Zhao's hands. At that moment, Gunter Farrell finally realized the unequal status between the two sides. His grandfather had died in battle and his uncle couldn't fight back anymore. Gunter Felix looked at Chen Zhao, who was rampaging like a demon. Finally, he took out a golden dragon statue. You forced me to do this. This was Gunter Felix's final trump card. It was also the Felix family's ultimate trump card. A wave of aura spread out. A golden figure flashed across the sky. At the same time, there were more than 10 extremely powerful auras. Chen Zhao looked up. The newcomer wasn't unfamiliar. Giant Dragon. The Emperor of Giant Dragons. There were also more than 10 dragons at the level of Dragon Father with him. The Dragon Emperor landed in front of Gunter Felix. However, his gaze landed on Chen Zhao. His golden pupils suddenly contracted. Your Majesty! Gunter Felix knelt on one knee and welcomed the Emperor. I beg you to complete the unfinished deal from 1,000 years ago. You represent the Felix family? Yes, I represent the Felix family. Then tell me what you want, the Emperor said. Kill him. Kill this intruder. Gunter Felix pointed at Chen Zhao. The remaining Felix family members all cheered. They didn't expect Gunter Felix to have such a powerful trump card. A trump card that could turn the tables. The Emperor sighed. I can't do it for a child of the Felix family. What? Gunter Felix was stunned. All the Felix family members were stunned too. Why? I can't beat him, the Emperor said honestly. The Dragon Sovereign said honestly, he's the strongest human in this world, or rather, the strongest living being. Both the known and unknown can't defeat him. How is that possible? You're the Emperor. Gunter Felix and everyone else in the Felix family couldn't accept the Emperor's answer. I can't kill him. I can only help you and your family in my own way. The Emperor looked at Chen Zhao. Sir, this is the second time we've met, right? You want to interfere in my war with the Felix family? Chapter 2974. End this war. You can make your request. The Dragon Emperor didn't continue. Kill everyone in the Felix family. 1,000 years ago, the ancestors of the Felix family made a deal with me. In that deal, I obtained what I wanted. At the same time, I made a promise that in the future, the Felix family could make 3 requests of me. As long as it was within my capabilities, I would do it. As long as you let the Felix family go, I can give you the rest of the promise. Chen Zhao sneered at the Dragon Emperor. The feud between me and the Felix family can't be resolved. I killed so many of their people. Will they give up on revenge? So, only one side can die in this war. I can promise that they won't seek revenge from you again. I won't believe anyone's promise except the dead. Then let me put it another way, the Dragon Emperor said. What price do I have to pay to keep them alive? Chen Zhao chuckled. 100 dragon fathers. I'm a bit short on money these days. The Dragon Emperor didn't feel good. There were less than 100 dragons in total. Moreover, he protected the Felix family because of his promise. But that didn't mean he would sacrifice the benefits of the dragon race. He wouldn't even sacrifice one dragon father for an outsider, let alone 100. I can seal their entire family for 100 years and give you all their collections. If I kill them, their collections will be mine too. I'll give you a promise, just like Ancestor Felix from 1,000 years ago. Why are there 3 of them? And I'm the only one left? Are you looking down on me? The Dragon Emperor took a deep breath and suppressed his anger. If not for the fact that he couldn't beat Chen Zhao, he would have sent Chen Zhao to a sauna. With your power you can do whatever I can. You can also do whatever I can't, so this promise is meaningless to you. Whether I need it or not is one thing, but whether you give it to me or not is a problem of attitude. Fine, 3 times, the Dragon Emperor said helplessly. Not enough. You're too much. All you have right now is your mouth. You haven't done anything, and you want me to let them go? What do you want? Does your dragon clan have any clan protecting treasures? The dragon monarch's face darkened. No, don't even think about it. They need to be sealed for 300 years. I should be able to live for 200 to 300 years. Anyway, as long as I'm alive, if they appear before me, I'll make them disappear completely. As for whether they want to take revenge on my descendants after 300 years, that's their own business. I'm too lazy to care about their afterlife. If I'm still alive after 300 years, they probably won't dare to mess with me. Sure. The Dragon Monarch didn't care if he had to seal the Felix family for 100 years or 300 years. He was only doing what he could to end this war as soon as possible. The Dragon King extended a finger. Chen Zhao could feel the Dragon King's domain spreading out and covering the entire Felix family. What was he trying to do? Start a war with me? Chen Zhao looked at the Dragon Emperor in surprise. Just then, the divine weapons in the hands of the Felier clansmen began to break free from their control, and automatically flew into the sky. Gunter Felix roared angrily. Dragon Emperor, I didn't ask you to do this. You are a traitor. The Dragon Emperor ignored Gunter Felix's roars and unwillingness. The divine weapons on Gunter Felix also left his body. The first to leave was the golden dragon statue. The Dragon Emperor pointed at Gunter Felix in the air. A cloud of golden dust started to spread under Gunter Farrell's feet, spreading upwards from his feet. What are you doing? What are you doing? Stop. Gunter Philomore panicked. But he couldn't stop the golden dust from spreading. His feet started turning gold. Then his body, his hands, his neck. No. I can't accept this. Finally, Gunter Felix turned completely into gold. The divine weapons of the Felix family rose into the air under the Dragon Emperor's control and circled around him. At the same time, the golden dust started spreading in all directions. Human, you can leave with your people now. Is that a seal? Chen Zhao still stood where he was. It's banishment. Their bodies and souls have been separated. The souls are banished to nothingness while the bodies are sealed in the golden dust. The Dragon Emperor pointed at Chen Zhao with his claws. The surrounding divine weapons all shot toward Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao didn't move. The divine weapons were controlled by Chen Zhao's domain. Let's go, Chen Zhao ordered. The matter with the Felix family had come to an end. Chen Zhao didn't want to fight the Dragon Emperor. It wasn't because of his power. Rather, it was because he represented balance. He restricted the evil dragons in the dragon race. As the pro-human faction in the dragon race, if the Dragon Emperor died in Chen Zhao's hands, the evil dragons would have a reason to take revenge on the humans. Secondly, Chen Zhao and the supernatural organization's requests had basically been fulfilled. Indeed, killing all the Felix family was the best choice. But Chen Zhao and the other members didn't care. During the battle, they had intentionally avoided hiding places in the catacombs. In it were the women and children of the Philil family. If the Felix family's combatants were taken care of, the women and children would be huge trouble. Neither Chen Zhao nor the members of the supernatural organization could kill a group of women and children. If he let them go, they might become new people to take revenge. Chen Zhao had to admit that the Dragon Emperor's intervention gave him a way out. As a top member, the Dragon Emperor didn't show any combat power this time. But his ability couldn't be ignored. His domain could control all the divine weapons of the Felix family. Chen Zhao didn't know how this ability worked. But he definitely wasn't as weak as he'd appeared. Think about it. If he could control the divine weapons more precisely to fight and attack, it definitely wouldn't be that easy for Chen Zhao to win. Also, this was just the Felix family's collection. What about his own collection? What about the dragon race's collection? Thousands, tens of thousands of god artifacts. What kind of majestic and great power would that be? This kind of control was completely different from Chen Zhao controlling the divine weapons around him. Chen Zhao could only hold them, but the Dragon Emperor could use them. Jolinash, did you win? Chen Zhao saw that Jolinash was injured again. She wasn't as heavily injured as last time, but she still looked rather pathetic. Jolinash shook her head. But I didn't lose. Chapter 2975. Amida had a narrow escape. She had never thought that she would bring such disaster to the Felix family. This war was completely different from the Felix family's defeat 300 years ago. Although the Felix family lost 300 years ago, they didn't suffer too much. However, the losses weren't too great, and the family managed to cut their losses in time. And after the war ended quickly, they left Europe. But it was different this time. No one in the entire family escaped. Only she, the instigator, was the only survivor. She was surprised that she had escaped. Because she was the only one whose artifact wasn't controlled by the Dragon Emperor. Amitha's emotions were complicated. Resentment, fear, regret, unwillingness. All sorts of negative emotions surged in her heart. Revenge? But how? The kind of undefeatable power. The kind of power that even the Dragon Emperor had to admit defeat. Was there really any power in this world that could help her get revenge? Amida walked on the road in a sorry state. At this moment, she felt empty and lost. Just then, a black MPV stopped next to Amida. Amida instantly tensed up. Most people who would come to her at this time couldn't be friends. But what Amida didn't expect was a chubby middle-aged man sitting inside. He was smoking a cigar and had a big belly. Amida didn't feel any hostility from this fat man. Miss Amida, do you want me to give you a ride? Who are you? Amida looked at this middle-aged fat man warily. Don't you want to know why you weren't sealed? Amida was stunned. You know? Amitha's nerves tightened. Could this amiable-looking middle-aged fat man in front of her be a dragon? Did he chase after her because she wasn't sealed with her clansmen? Just then, a young man's face appeared in the car. Come on up. My dad won't hurt you. Plus, do you think you can escape with 5 dragons here? Amida was silent. In other words, the people in this MPV were all dragons? Amida knew that even if she was in her best condition, even if she had all her artifacts, she couldn't be cocky in front of 5 dragons. Moreover, she only had 2 divine artifacts with her now. However, this did not mean that she had given up resisting. After Amida got into the car, she first sized up the fat middle-aged man and his son. Next were the 2 men in black who were sitting in the front seats. As for the driver, he could not see his face clearly. However, his burly figure was still hard to ignore. Stop looking. You can't beat anyone here, the young man said. Why are you looking for me? Amida looked warily at the middle-aged fatty and the young man in the carriage. Let's get to know each other. I'm Arthur Alberta Haber, and the opposite is my father, the Dragon Emperor you know. Emma's entire body tensed up. She had just seen the Dragon Emperor's true form not long ago. However, it was difficult to connect the Dragon Emperor who had transformed into a human with the mighty and domineering Dragon Emperor. Why are you looking for me? Do you want to seal me too? No. The Dragon Emperor rolled down the window and tossed the cigar out. Amida had been waiting for the Dragon Emperor to continue. However, after seeing his actions, Amida could not help but complain in a low voice. So uncultured. The Dragon Emperor was very embarrassed. After coughing, he returned to the topic and said, I used to have 3 children. My eldest son, Haber Timur Haber. He is my second son, Arthur Alberta Haber. In fact, the 2 of them also have an elder sister. Don't tell me that I'm your daughter. I'm a member of the Felix family. My parents are very clear. You are indeed my daughter, and they are indeed your biological parents. The Dragon Emperor did not deny it. 1,000 years ago, my elder sister died when she was very young. My father kept her dragon soul and made a deal with the Felix family. He used the bloodline of the Felix family to keep my elder sister's dragon soul until her dragon soul could be reincarnated. And you are my reincarnated elder sister. Author Alberta Haber said. Amada looked at the Dragon Emperor expressionlessly, and then looked at her brother in the soul. She did not doubt it too much, but she did not take it too seriously either. Compared to the Dragon Emperor who suddenly appeared and she recognized, she had more feelings for the Felix family. That's why you didn't seal me on the battlefield just now? No, I didn't seal you not because I let you go, but because of your own ability. Then why are you looking for me now? Don't tell me you want me to perform a scene of father and daughter reuniting with each other? The Dragon Emperor sighed. How should I put it? My feelings for you are actually quite complicated. Please get straight to the point. Well, in addition to reuniting with you, I also want to ask you for a favor. Your Majesty Dragon Emperor, please don't joke around. You are the Dragon Emperor. You want me to help? Are you serious? Rather than help, it's more like cooperation. Cooperation for what? I don't think I'm qualified to cooperate with your Majesty Dragon Emperor. Our dragon clan has a giant dragon treasure trove that can only be opened by 3 sons of Haber. I, Arthur, and you will work together to open the giant dragon treasure trove. Why me? Didn't you say that I have a younger brother? He's dead. The Dragon Emperor said helplessly. Death shouldn't be a restriction for you, right? I died 1,000 years ago in my previous life, and you could resurrect me. My younger brother should be able to resurrect too, right? He was killed by that enemy of yours. His body and dragon soul were also taken by him. The Dragon Emperor was even more helpless. Amada was shocked. The Dragon Emperor's son was killed, and he could not take revenge. Could he still take revenge for the Felix family? Haven't you thought about revenge? The difference in strength between me and him has already determined that this war is impossible. Moreover, that rebellious eldest son of mine is not a good person. Although I am angry that he killed my eldest son, I am not in any position to start a war with him. You are the Dragon Emperor. You don't have to instigate me to start a war with him. We are not at the stage where one of us will die. All right, then you want to cooperate with me, right? You are not ordering me. Of course, although your soul is my daughter, I am still contacting you as a collaborator. Then what do I get in return? For example, helping me take revenge? Child, remembering hatred is not a good thing. Forgetting hatred will only cause me more pain. Then I will give you power. As for whether you use this power to take revenge or anything else, it has nothing to do with me. What do you think? Can the power you give me help me take revenge? Power needs to be climbed step by step. What I can give you is another step under your feet, but I won't let you stand at his height directly. Chapter 2976. When Chen Zhao returned, the 23rd Blood Mary welcomed him warmly. Of course, Chen Zhao wasn't that happy to see her. After all, she didn't do anything except release a message. Then, she would get 30% of the spoils. To her, this was a no-cost deal. But Chen Zhao still had to keep his promise. The 23rd Blood Mary didn't do anything. In fact, using her identity to release the message was a price in itself. Without her message, Chen Zhao probably wouldn't have been able to wipe out the entire Tyler family. He also wouldn't have gotten such a huge amount of spoils. How do we split it? Mary asked. Can I pick 30%? No way. Chen Zhao shook his head. I don't recognize most of the things here. If you pick first, the rest will probably be worthless. In fact, it wasn't just most. Chen Zhao didn't recognize 99% of the spoils. With the 23rd Blood Mary's eyesight, she could recognize at least half. With her judgment, she could pick more than 80% of the good stuff. Then, she'd end up with a bunch of worthless stuff. Chen Zhao kept his promise, but that didn't mean he was stupid. If you don't let me pick, how do we split it? Mary looked at Chen Zhao, dissatisfied. In fact, she really did plan to pick the valuable stuff. Split it by weight, Chen Zhao said. Are you kidding me? No, I'm serious. Chen Zhao took out all the spoils. Then, he rolled up all the loot. All the spoils of war danced in the air, making it hard for people to keep up with them. If you tell me to stop, I'll give you 30% of the spoils, Chen Zhao said. The 23rd Blood Mary laughed in anger. But she couldn't convince Chen Zhao. Now that they were divided according to weight, it was purely based on luck. Stop! Clang! After a series of banging sounds, nearly 100 magic tools were thrown in front of the 23rd Blood Mary. There were big and small, all kinds of colors and shapes. The 23rd Blood Mary looked at the things before her. She was happy and disappointed. There were indeed many good things, but they definitely weren't as valuable as what she'd picked herself. Do you have any objections? If you're not satisfied, I can give you another chance to exchange for the spoils of war. Forget it. The 23rd Blood Mary accepted the result without hesitation. After all, changing again might not be as good as the first time. All right then, the magical tools will be divided like this. The rest will belong to me. Then, he took out some magic materials. The distribution of magic materials was much simpler. They just had to divide the magic materials according to the ratio of 3 to 7. Compared to magic tools, magic materials were the real harvest. The Felix family was a millennium-old family. 300 years ago, they launched a war of plunder. It almost scraped the surface of Europe. As a result, they needed a huge amount of magic materials. A single magical material could be measured in tons. Of course, with such a huge amount of magic materials, it wasn't easy to deal with them. The happiest was, of course, Ruan Faxburn. Is everyone done? Mary, the 23rd generation's blood, was also surprised. He even felt a little regretful. If he had known earlier that the Farrell family was so wealthy, he wouldn't have done so. She would strike before the Fallers jumped out. Yes, but do you still remember what you owe me? Last time, when she'd traded the golden apple with Chen Zhao. Because Chen Zhao had asked for half of Fenrir, Mary still owed Chen Zhao something worth half of Fenrir's magic core. It could be a magic core or anything else. The 23rd generation's Blood Mary looked at Chen Zhao awkwardly. I thought you forgot. Actually, I've already forgotten about it. I didn't expect you to remember. Haha, aren't you taking this opportunity to settle our debts? The 23rd generation's Blood Mary looked at her spoils of war and thought about it with a pained heart. Since it was a deal based on honesty, she obviously couldn't fool Chen Zhao. After all, Chen Zhao would take her payment to Bifla or Zhang Tianyi later for verification. If she was exposed, she would lose face. More importantly, she would lose their friendship. That would be a true loss. But Fenrir wasn't an ordinary magical beast. It was the legendary demonic wolf that had bitten Odin to death. It could be called the #1 beast in history. So, ordinary things really couldn't be compared to Fenrir's magic core. Finally, the 23rd generation's Blood Mary took out a hollowed-out golden ball from her spoils of war and handed it to Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao took the hollow golden ball and studied it carefully. Inside the hollow golden ball, there was a small ball floating in the air. What's this? Divine artifact. Nonsense. Of course I know about divine artifacts. There are divine artifacts everywhere. If you randomly pick one and give it to me, it's no different from fooling me. Please believe in my honesty, okay? Fine. You have to explain to me what divine artifact this ball is and what it's used for. Put your magic power inside. Don't put too much in, or it'll explode. Chen Zhao followed the 23rd generation's method and carefully put in his power. Just then, Chen Zhao felt a blurry aura. Chen Zhao's mind seemed to connect with that aura through the hollowed-out golden ball. Ha! What's with this feeling? This is the winter ball. Legend has it that it's the treasure of the winter god in Olympus. In medieval Europe, this winter ball had always been in the hands of a big noble until 300 years ago, when it was taken away by the Fellner family, the 23rd generation Blood Mary said. The 23rd Blood Mary said, as long as you want, you can even create a small polar region. This thing can't increase my combat ability at all. The 23rd generation Blood Mary almost smashed the divine artifact into Chen Zhao's face. She finally calmed down, but her tone was still displeased. Are you kidding me? Where do you want me to find something that can increase your combat ability? Chen Zhao smiled awkwardly. Indeed, there were very few things in the world that could increase his combat ability. Most divine artifacts were meaningless to Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao tried it. He was more familiar with it than the first time. At least he knew how to control the winter ball. In an instant, Chen Zhao created an extremely low temperature within a radius of 1,000 meters. This was only the minimum. Chen Zhao could feel it. If he wanted to, all of Los Angeles might fall into winter. But Chen Zhao didn't plan on going against the natural climate. So to Chen Zhao, this thing was a large temperature regulator, or an air conditioner. Chapter 2977. Chen Zhao played with the winter's ball. If it was in someone else's hands, it would indeed be valuable. But to Chen Zhao, it was just an air conditioner. Plus, it could only be adjusted for cold, not hot. Of course, on a hot summer day, being able to walk out of an air-conditioned room and make his living environment cool was also a good choice. Chen Zhao put the winter's ball away, acknowledging its value. Actually, 23rd Blood Mary was also very cunning. The winter's ball she'd picked was valuable. But it wasn't very practical. Different people would have different effects when it came to practicality. So it wasn't her fault that Chen Zhao couldn't use it. After all, Chen Zhao was too strong. It wasn't that the item was worthless. Plus, even 23rd Blood Mary didn't have much use for it. Because her theocracy was air. She could use air to create temperature differences. She could also adjust the temperature as she pleased compared to the winter's ball. However, she couldn't do it in a large area like the winter's ball. Then Chen Zhao returned to the headquarters with the rest of the spoils. Ruan, you're in charge of classifying the spoils and figuring out how to use them. Chen Zhao called West and Ruan Faxburn over. At the same time, divide the loot. As for the standard you decide. Everyone participating in this mission can pick one of the highest quality. West, you're also in charge of evaluating the points. If you want these magic tools, you have to exchange them with points. West thought about it and also felt that Chen Zhao's suggestion was more suitable for their current structure. Although the harvest this time was great, it couldn't be distributed equally to everyone. The spoils could provide them with long-term development. So, they had to plan for the long term when distributing and providing these resources. President, I heard from Xiao He that you've been dragging her and another girl out to exorcise demons these few nights. West looked at Chen Zhao. He knew that Chen Zhao definitely wouldn't torture two girls out of boredom. With his understanding of Chen Zhao, if Chen Zhao was still alive, he'd probably be sleeping instead of playing with two girls. One of the girls is my disciple. West stared at Chen Zhao with widened eyes. President, when did you accept her? I haven't formally acknowledged him as my master yet. But her senior told me to take her in, so we're basically friends. As for Xiao He, since it's the same to train one or two, I might as well bring her along. All right. West wasn't worried about anything happening. Chen Zhao really didn't have to worry about anything happening with him. It was just a night of peace. Tonight, the nightmarish knocking came again. Xiao He and Carrie covered their heads with their blankets. They really wanted to pretend that they didn't hear anything. The next moment, the knocking stopped. Jialiwen, that guy didn't leave, right? It can't be. That guy is never as simple as a trick. We'll hide under the bed. If he comes in and can't find us, we might be able to fool him. Are you sure you can fool him by hiding under the bed? Let's give it a try. Even if we fail, we won't suffer any losses. If we succeed, we can completely get rid of this guy. Carrie thought about it and felt that it made sense. The two hid under the bed. But no one came in. The two hid for a few minutes. Suddenly, they felt a bit cold. Xiao He, are you cold? When Carrie spoke, white air came out of her mouth. Xiao He was already shivering from the cold. Damn, what's going on? It's mid-April. Why is it so cold? The two could no longer hide under the bed. They both climbed out. But as soon as they came out, they saw that the room was already covered in ice. The walls and ceiling were all frozen. The furniture was also covered in frost. The two felt even colder. They hugged their arms and rushed out of the room. As soon as they came out, they saw Chen Zhao sitting on the opposite bench, smiling at them. Damn it, you did this, didn't you? Carrie charged toward Chen Zhao, panting with rage. Get in, Chen Zhao said. You still haven't answered my question. Get in. Chen Zhao's tone changed. Carrie chickened out immediately and got in the car obediently with Xiao He. This time, Chen Zhao didn't bring them to some creepy place. Instead, it was a community. What did you bring us here for? Does this family need it? Xiao He asked, pointing at a house by the road. Chen Zhao shook his head. I don't want you to exorcise this family. I want you to go in and kill their whole family. What? Who do you think we are? I won't be your executioner. Whether it was Jia Liwen or Xiao He, they both had their own bottom lines. They'd submitted to Chen Zhao, but that didn't mean they'd give in to any of his requests. Chen Zhao threw a document at their faces. The two looked at the content angrily. After a while, their eyes became hesitant. The document explained the family's identity and background in detail. It also explained why they deserved to die. We should leave this to the police, Carrie said hesitantly. There's enough evidence. We're not killers. We can't replace the judge. Tell the police that they disintegrated the victims with magic and that they were actually killed by their goo bugs? Chen Zhao asked. Also, do you think a regular prison can lock them up? Instead of putting them into a farm full of fodder? But Chen Zhao didn't want to reason with the two girls anymore. He threw them out of the car. At the same time, he flicked the door of the family. Boom! Half of that family's house was flattened. Xiao He and Carrie glanced at each other and saw the helplessness in each other's eyes. Just then, 3 people rushed out of the house. There were 3 people in the family. A couple and their son. The whole family deserved to die. After their house was destroyed, the 3 of them rushed out of the rubble with endless anger. You all already know what the 3 of them are capable of. I won't say anything unnecessary. Kill them or be killed by them. The 2 girls had to fight even if they didn't want to. Even if they explained to the 3 that they were also victims. It was likely that the 3 vicious families would not believe their explanation. Chapter 2978. The young man stepped on Carrie's head and pressed it into the mud. Pft, pft. Asterisk shoal, if you don't help, we're really going to die here. Carrie yelled at Chen Zhao's car. Xiao He wasn't much better. She curled up on the ground and spat out blood. Chen Zhao covered his forehead and could only get out. I gave you such detailed information. How did you lose? The 2 were helpless. Yes, Chen Zhao had given them their opponent's abilities and weaknesses. But the key problem was that the 3 of them were too strong. This wasn't something that could be solved with just information. Weaknesses could only be used when the difference between the 2 sides wasn't too big. But they were a few Pacific Oceans away from their opponents. How could they fight? The young man looked at Chen Zhao. So there's another one. Is he here to die too? Chen Zhao glanced at the man indifferently and flicked his finger. Bang! The man exploded. Son. Seeing their son explode on the spot, the couple attacked Chen Zhao hysterically. Chen Zhao didn't hold back either. He flicked his finger twice more. The battle ended in the blink of an eye. The 2 sat on the ground pathetically, covered in filth and blood. The 2 silently deleted the plan to defeat Chen Zhao in their minds. They felt that the plan was a bit unrealistic. In the past 2 days, they'd felt that they'd improved a lot. They'd thought that surpassing Chen Zhao was just around the corner. But now, they felt that this day was a bit too far away. The 2 of them couldn't beat this family even if they fought with their lives. In the blink of an eye, Chen Zhao didn't even leave a corpse behind. How's the cultivation method I gave you last time? Chen Zhao looked at Carrie. Done. Carrie answered softly. Actually, she'd been practicing quite diligently these few days. Xiao He had also been giving her pointers. Xiao He's cultivation wasn't high, but she'd been influenced since she was young. She knew the basics in more detail than Carrie. So, Xiao He could still help Carrie with the basics. When a cultivator first came into contact with cultivation methods, their cultivation improved the fastest too. In the past few days, everything changed. She felt that she was becoming stronger every moment. This was also why Carrie had the wrong impression. He felt that he could surpass Chen Zhao soon. No, I feel like I'm going to die. I need to rest. Raising his hand, Chen Zhao condensed 2 water balls and threw them at Carrie and Xiao He. Ah! What are you doing? Can't you see that we're all heavily injured? You're so dirty, Chen Zhao said mercilessly. If you dirty my car, can you afford to pay for it? Xiao He and Carrie wanted to pounce on him and bite him to death. However, considering the difference in strength between the enemy and himself, they decided to pretend to be grandsons first. He would settle the score with this fellow after the fight was over. The two dragged their weary bodies back home. You two can rest for the next 2 days. Did you let us go? No, in 3 days, I will arrange an opponent for you. It will be your graduation exam. Will we be free if we defeat that opponent? Yes. He didn't tell them that they had graduated from kindergarten. He had to give them some hope. Sister Qing. Chen Zhao arrived at Ethan's hotel. Li Qingzheng was at the cashier's desk. Where's Ethan? He went to stock up, Li Qing said. Do you want to eat something? Chen Zhao went to open the shelf and took out 2 burgers. How's Carrie? Too weak, Chen Zhao said. The spiritual world will become more and more dangerous now. It might even affect ordinary people. Chen Zhao felt that the secret that most ordinary people didn't know about for thousands of years might be exposed in this era. This era had extremely powerful communication technology and the speed at which information spread. It was decided that every secret would become vulnerable. Since the beginning of the spirit tide, paranormal incidents had become more frequent. And they were developing in a more serious direction. Chen Zhao could feel it. These supernatural events were happening more and more to ordinary people. When the supernatural organization received a mission, if the target was an ordinary person, they would take out a contract and ask the other party to keep the secret. But this contract wasn't absolutely safe. It was binding on ordinary people. But it wasn't safe. Of course, for now, even if someone posted about supernatural events online, it would be instantly deleted by the network supervision section. There weren't many people posting now, though. Nothing big had happened yet. However, if there came a day when a supernatural event with a huge impact occurred, it would be impossible for them to survive. If it was posted online, the secret would explode instantly. Of course, whether it was exposed in the end or not, it had nothing to do with Chen Zhao. Li Qing had been supervising Carrie's cultivation progress. She was actually worried that she could at least protect herself before the Great Era arrived. The arrival of the spiritual tide meant that the battles in the spiritual world would become more intense. If Carrie was an ordinary person, it would be fine. But now, she was inseparable from the spiritual world. Li Qing felt that Carrie had to have the ability to protect herself. Chen Zhao, are you in contact with Qingping Sage? No, why? Chen Zhao asked. She came to find you? Taoist Master Qingping had even investigated Carrie's background. He definitely knew about Li Qing's current situation. Whether for business or personal reasons, it was reasonable for her to find Li Qing. Li Qing shook her head. I'm just worried that she has ulterior motives for Carrie. Don't worry, I'm here, Chen Zhao said. Li Qing's business was his business. Not many people could make Chen Zhao say this. Li Qing was one of them. Last time, Qingping Sage had said that he wanted Carrie to inherit the position of Mao Mountain's leader. Actually, Chen Zhao could feel that Qingping Sage didn't want Carrie as his successor, but himself. Carrie was just a substitute. Of course, Chen Zhao wouldn't be a Taoist. But if Qingping Sage wanted to touch Carrie, Chen Zhao didn't mind going all out. Chen Zhao sat there for a while until Ethan came back. He only left after greeting Ethan. On the way home, Chen Zhao received a call from Bader. Mr. Chen, how's your preparation? God of Light, are we going to start? No, there's still 1 more week. I'm just reminding you. If you haven't prepared yet, then hurry up. Time waits for no man. If it's too late, I'm afraid I'll miss this opportunity forever and you'll lose it too. Chapter 2979. He's giving you a week to prepare. He's actually making you lower your guard, Zhang Tianyi said over the phone. Zhang Tianyi said on the phone, we are all betting on you this time. If we win, the 4 of our families will have a good life, and we will be more qualified than others in the spirit tide in the next 100 years. But if we lose, think about your wife and children. Trust me. I won't die even if you die. Chen Zhao and Zhang Tianyi argued with each other. But they didn't forget to prepare. Both Chen Zhao and Zhang Tianyi knew this would be an unprecedented battle. It didn't matter if Odin was at his peak or just a remnant soul. The title of King of Gods wasn't just for show. The God of Light alone was an existence that was close to immortal and indestructible. This was enough to give them a headache. Not to mention the King of Gods. Most importantly, they didn't trust each other. They still did not trust each other and could turn against each other at any time. Chen Zhao's biggest preparation was to increase his power as much as possible. The river map was the best place for him to cultivate. Chen Zhao had to familiarize himself with his current realm. He'd just reached Ascension. Some things would be understood when he reached it. But understanding it was one thing, and being able to do it was another thing. After reaching Ascension, Chen Zhao's control of power reached a new level. The most obvious effect was the creation of the dark red neutron star. He could already skillfully create 2 dark red neutron stars before. But after reaching Ascension, the creation process was faster and more stable. The dark red neutron star could be considered Chen Zhao's regular skill. Meteor was still Chen Zhao's biggest killer move. According to the normal flow of time, Chen Zhao had been in the river map for 6 hours, which was equivalent to 6,000 hours. In these 6,000 hours, Chen Zhao only did one thing. He consolidated his cultivation and practiced the dark red neutron star. As for improving, Chen Zhao didn't think about it for now. He felt that he was too far away from the next realm. Chen Zhao had just reached Ascension. What Chen Zhao needed to do was to train it to the extreme. Then he had to think about the next realm. But he had to train it to the extreme. Chen Zhao felt that it was even more distant. Because his inner world was endless. At least, he didn't feel the limit of his inner world. Every time the world soul of the inner world completed a cycle of life and death, it would produce a large amount of heaven and earth spiritual energy. The spiritual chi of heaven and earth spread from inside to outside, passing through Chen Zhao's body and turning into immortal power. He didn't know if he could completely crush the world of the feathered serpent god and integrate it into his own inner world. However, regardless of whether it was normal cultivation or fusing other worlds to fill one's inner world, it was an extremely long process. Therefore, there was no need to think about it for the time being. Basically, it was measured in hundreds of years. Moreover, he couldn't estimate how long it would take. He even felt that he had reached the end of cultivation. Chen Zhao's power could grow infinitely. There was no end to the upper limit of ascendance level. Of course, it felt like it was the end. But Chen Zhao believed that there was no end. For example, Old Turtle and the handsome young man. These two definitely belonged to another level of existence. Perhaps it wasn't just the difference of one realm. Therefore, Chen Zhao felt that his feelings weren't real. He might be the strongest person in this era. But he definitely wasn't the strongest person in history. There might be even more glorious eras that were more distant from this era and older than recorded history. Chen Zhao believed that those extremely powerful, or even great, legends definitely existed. At least, the previous owner of the river map was the creator of the river map. The legendary mother of humans, Nuwa, must be an unparalleled existence. He couldn't feel the end of ascendance level because his cultivation wasn't there yet. Chen Zhao had been carefully observing the life and death of the world's soul. He wanted to see the secrets of heaven. But Chen Zhao clearly overestimated himself. With Chen Zhao's metaphysical foundation, wanting to understand the true meaning of life and death through the life and death cycle of the world's soul was as unrealistic as trying to deduce the Big Bang Theory with a telescope. However, the increase in power was real. The limitlessness of ascendance level wasn't just for show. Over the past few days, Chen Zhao cultivated in the river map for 6 hours a day. Every time he finished cultivating, he could feel his power grow. It wasn't like a drop of water turning into a spring. It was like rivers flowing into the sea. After a few days of cultivation, Chen Zhao's cultivation had increased by at least 2 times. Also, after this period of cultivation, Chen Zhao also found out what was special about ascendance level. It was different from Shangqing's most obvious characteristic, the pocket world. Ascendance level's characteristic was hidden. At least, that was if he didn't find out. Chen Zhao almost thought that the characteristic of ascendance level was that the inner world could produce spiritual qi. In reality, the inner world couldn't produce spiritual qi. It wasn't a characteristic. It was an instinct like breathing. There were two true characteristics of Ascendance level. One was to materialize the inner world. It was an upgraded version of the pocket world. It could also be called an upgraded version of the God's kingdom. For example, Chen Zhao's inner world was a scorching and crazily spinning sun. The entire inner world was filled with violent energy. Almost no living thing could survive in such an extreme environment. Even spiritual bodies couldn't survive in such an environment. It could scatter a spirit body soul at any moment. Chen Zhao believed that even Zhang Tianyi would be roasted into jerky if he was trapped in the materialized inner world. Once Chen Zhao's inner world materialized, it could cover a wider area than the outer world. It could cover a radius of 10 kilometers at the moment. The other was to drag the enemy's soul into his own inner world. In other words, he could trap the enemy's soul in his sea of consciousness. However, not every enemy's soul could be dragged into the sea of consciousness. It depended on the enemy's soul strength. After discovering this, Chen Zhao went to find a few disaster-level evil spirits to test it out. He managed to summon 5 evil spirits in total. 4 of them were easily dragged into the sea of consciousness. However, he didn't manage to drag one of the disaster-level evil spirits into the sea of consciousness. Of course, it might be because Chen Zhao had just come into contact with this ability and couldn't use it freely yet. Currently, the most practical one was still the materialization of the inner world. This was also the most powerful non-physical attack skill that Chen Zhao had. It didn't have to cover a wide area. The most important thing was that after the inner world materialized, the temperature within a radius of 10 kilometers could reach tens of thousands of degrees or even hundreds of thousands of degrees. Any living thing, even spiritual bodies, would turn into ashes under this. Even the earth would melt. Chapter 2980. Time was up. Bader informed Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao also informed the others. When Chen Zhao saw Bader, there were a few people beside him. They were very strong. They were all in the Shangqing realm, but they weren't gods. Chen Zhao glanced at Zhang Tianyi, inquiring about the situation with his eyes. Why did so many Shangqing realm cultivators suddenly appear? Were Shangqing realm cultivators so worthless now? Zhang Tianyi looked at the strangers with a confused and strange expression. It would be fine if he didn't know 1 or 2 powerful hermits. But there were so many of them and he didn't know any of them. Most importantly, they weren't old. They looked to be in their 20s or 30s. They'd actually reached the Shangqing realm. Their talents weren't much worse than Chen Zhao's. Smiling, Bader and Chen Zhao met. Mr. Chen, you're here. Yeah, looks like you found a lot of helpers. Chen Zhao glanced at the Shangqing realm cultivators behind Bader. What about you? You seem to be missing someone. Bader realized that Zhang Tianyi and Baifla were the only ones who came with Chen Zhao. According to his information, the 23rd Blood Mary was also a member of their group. You know, women have a few inconveniences every month. Chen Zhao shrugged. Bader's face darkened. The woman Chen Zhao mentioned was only 1 year old. You're treating her like a relative? Plus, she's a god. Even if you want to fool me, can't you be more careful? Everyone was fooling each other now, but if you want to fool me, please be more serious, okay? Bader, you found so many people. You don't seem to need us at all. Actually, you can take care of it with these people, right? Ha! They're not as strong as you think, Bader said, chuckling. Of course, Chen Zhao could feel it. Baifla and Zhang Tianyi could too. These Shangqing realm cultivators were indeed very strong in the eyes of regular cultivators. However, compared to the few of them, the difference was not just a little bit. It seemed like they had the advantage in numbers. Actually, if they really fought, any one of Chen Zhao, Zhang Tianyi, or Baifla could take care of them all. They didn't even need to rest. From the looks of it, these people were just for show. Chen Zhao, Baifla, and Zhang Tianyi were sellers. Opposite them was a group of buyers. Of course, there was another problem that couldn't be ignored. Chen Zhao, Baifla, and Zhang Tianyi were powerful in many aspects. Many factors contributed to their strength. For example, perfected Qing Ping, whose cultivation was right behind Zhang Tianyi's. However, her actual combat ability was about the same as the 23rd generation Blood Mary. Taoist Master Qing Ping was considered quite outstanding. There were also some Shangqing realm cultivators, but their actual combat power might not even be as strong as immortal Qingping. This was the case for the people in front of him. Of course, there were many reasons why they were weak. One of the reasons was that Chen Zhao, Bifla, and Zhang Tianyi all sensed that they didn't enter the Shangqing region through normal means. It was hard to tell, but they looked like a simplified version of the Shangqing realm. Chen Zhao, Bifla, and Zhang Tianyi were using the ultimate VIP version. If these were Baldur's trump cards, Chen Zhao, Bifla, and Zhang Tianyi would probably wake up laughing. Although their eyes were unruly and arrogant, Chen Zhao, Bifla, and Zhang Tianyi were all smiling. They were like good people who didn't want to be angry at them at all. But Chen Zhao, Bifla, and Zhang Tianyi really didn't want to have a conflict with them. Right now, Chen Zhao, Bifla, and Zhang Tianyi really didn't want to have a conflict with them. They really didn't want to have a conflict. Because if they did, Baldur would find out that the people he brought were all just for show. What if he changed the players in the middle? Baldur, how do we go to Asgard? Or do we need to take a plane? Have you booked a plane ticket? Baldur ignored Chen Zhao's nonsense. He took out a compass and looked up at the sky. Chen Zhao also looked up. There was nothing in the sky. Suddenly, a beam of light shot out from the compass in Baldur's hand. The light landed in the sky and formed a circle of light. Go up. Everyone flew into the sky. This circle of light was a crack in an alternate space. Chen Zhao, Bifla, and Zhang Tianyi exchanged glances and entered the crack together. But there was nothing in this alternate space. The surroundings were pitch black. Chen Zhao, Bifla, and Zhang Tianyi didn't feel any aura or material. It was a completely empty alternate space. But the three of them kept their auras closely connected. As long as something happened to one of them, the other two would know instantly too. Baldur also brought his subordinates into the alternate space. Baldur, there's nothing here. Don't tell me this is Asgard. Of course not. This is just a transfer station. Baldur activated the compass again. The compass shot out another beam of light and opened another crack in space. Everyone entered again. Another transfer station? Yes. Baldur activated the compass again. A third crack appeared. Just as they entered the third crack in space, everyone's feet touched solid ground. They realized that they'd stepped on solid ground. It wasn't empty anymore. There was light, land and mountains. But there was no water or life. Everything here was very desolate. There were dark red sand and rocks everywhere. It was as if the entire world was a red desert. Old Zhang, Bifla. Is it okay for him to bring us all the way to the transfer station? It's okay for now, Zhang Tianyi said. The alternate spaces we've been to so far are all regular transitions. As the god realm of the Asgard gods, Asgard obviously won't be too close to the main world like other alternate spaces. It should be a few worlds away, but this world shouldn't just be used as a transfer station. It should be a world with life. There are still traces of war here. There's still a small amount of life hiding deep underground, Bifla said. But they're all very weak and unintelligent. Just then, Baldur activated the compass for the fourth time. There was a huge piece of land behind the fourth crack in space. It floated in the air. The entire land was filled with natural life. Alfheim. Surprise flashed in Bifla's eyes. You know this place? Chen Zhao asked. It's one of the 9 realms controlled by the Asgard gods, the Elven Kingdom, the Holy Land of Light. Chapter 2981. It was completely different from the previous 3 worlds. The first 2 worlds only had emptiness. There was nothing else. The third world only had barren land. But this Alfheim looked like a paradise. It was full of vitality. The air was filled with a thick aura of nature. It was an endless expanse of green. The 3 communicated telepathically. At the same time, Bifla told Chen Zhao about the 9 realms in Norse mythology. Asgard was the top, the divine realm. It was the world of the Asgard gods. Below that was Vanaheim, the world of the Vanir gods. Odin's wife, Freya, was a Vanir god. She controlled mysterious magic that even Odin couldn't. Then there was Alfheim, the home of the elves. Alfheim was almost a blessed world. It could be said to be a paradise in the 9 realms. Below that was the Midland, the human world. Then there was Jotunheim, the land of the giants. Almost all the giants in Norse mythology came from Jotunheim. Svartalfheim, a world dominated by skilled dwarves. Then there was Heim's underworld, the home of the dead in Norse mythology. Niflheim, a world of frost and also a hell of frost. Muspelheim, a world of fire and a hell of fire. Surtur was the ruler and guardian of Muspelheim. Surtur was also the terminator of the world and the final verifier of the twilight of the gods. This place isn't normal, Chenjiao said. What's wrong? What did you find? I can't tell. Chenjiao shook his head. Just then, Bader activated the compass again. It seemed like he didn't plan to stay here for too long. Bader, can't you open the door to Asgard in one go? Do you have to tour the 9 realms in one day? I want to, but I can't. Why? Because the world tree connects the 9 realms. The 9 realms are like leaves on the branch. You can only walk from the neighboring world. You can't move between the 2 worlds. Earth is connected to the world tree too? Chenjiao asked. Yes. But I don't see any connected trees. The world tree isn't the plant you know. Forget it. Even I don't know what it looks like. Alright, how many more worlds? There's one more. He'll be here soon, Bader answered calmly. Bader then opened another world entrance of nothingness. The 3 of them entered at the same time. However, Bader did not come in. Then the entrance was closed. The 3 of them looked at each other. We seem to have fallen into a trap. Remove the seam. Chenjiao said expressionlessly. We've fallen into a trap. There's something wrong with this world. Zhang Tianyi frowned. My magic power is flowing away. Me too. Bifora and Zhang Tianyi looked at him at the same time. Okay, I don't feel anything. Chenjiao shrugged. What's going on here? Why is our magic power depleting so badly? Why are you fine? Bifla and Zhang Tianyi looked at him, annoyed. Isn't it obvious? The difference in strength. I reckon that the God of Light is waiting right now to trap us here. Once our power is completely depleted, he will directly attack us. I thought he would wait for us and Odin's soul to mutually injure each other before making a move. What do we do now? If we run out of magic power, we'll be lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Can we find a way out? Zhang Tianyi shook his head. It's nothingness here, but the space is rather stable. Plus, we don't even have a dimensional beacon. Even if we spend a lot of effort to open a spatial rift, we don't know where we'll go. We'll probably really be wandering between dimensions. Then you don't have a dimensional beacon for Earth. Yes, but this place isn't connected to Earth. Didn't you record any dimensional beacons in the previous worlds we passed through? Do you know how to get a dimensional beacon? Bifla glanced at Chenjiao. No. For example, in this world, we need the distance of at least 10 celestial bodies to this world to get a more accurate coordinate. For example, Earth is the simplest. It's in the solar system and the numbers are more accurate, so it's easy to get Earth's dimensional beacon. If we're in other worlds, we need professional stargazing to get a dimensional beacon, and it might not be accurate either. Chenjiao looked around. Then this world is nothingness and there are no celestial bodies. What do we do? Then we create our own celestial bodies and throw them out with our own power to act as a celestial body, Bifla said. But usually, this kind of dimensional beacon isn't accurate because it can't last long if you throw it out with your own power. It's far from having a celestial body as a beacon. Plus, how big can you create a celestial body with your own power? In other words, the more celestial bodies there are and the more accurate the distance between this world and the celestial body is, the more accurate the value of the dimensional beacon will be, right? Yes. It's not hard to create a celestial body, Chenjiao said. It's not hard to maintain it for a long time. Let me try. With that, Chenjiao released his inner world. Instantly, everything within a 10-kilometer sphere was covered in scorching heat. Fuck. Stop. Zhang Tianyi and Bifla immediately felt the terrifying heat wave. Under normal circumstances, such an environment would affect them too. But it wasn't enough to make them flustered. But now, they were in an alternate world. Their spiritual power was flowing out like crazy again. If they had to use spells to protect themselves again, it would flow out even faster. I almost forgot. Chenjiao immediately used his power to protect the two. I almost forgot. Chenjiao immediately used his power to protect the two. My spiritual power stopped flowing out. The loss of my magic power has stopped. Me too. Zhang Tianyi and Bifla realized that after being protected by Chen Zhao's power, not only were they no longer affected by the high temperature of Chen Zhao's inner world, but even their spiritual power had stopped flowing out. How did you create such a terrifyingly hot environment? This is a unique ability of the ascendant state. This is actually my inner world, Chen Zhao said. I just gave you my personal power so that you can resonate with your inner world. Then, you won't be affected by the high temperature of my inner world anymore. I think I get it. Zhang Tianyi thought about it and nodded. I get it too, Bifla replied in agreement. Chapter 2982. This world is very strange. Normal worlds will automatically produce worldly spiritual energy. Cultivators can then absorb the worldly spiritual energy to create a resonance with the world. However, this world does not produce worldly spiritual energy. Instead, it is like a starving man with insufficient food, absorbing the magic power of outsiders. However, your inner world is already a complete minor world. Thus, it is not affected by this world. As for us, we are now enveloped by your inner world. Thus, we are also isolated from the negative effects of this abnormal world, Zhang Tianyi said. Will it affect you if we absorb the spiritual qi in your inner world? Absorb as much as you can, Chen Zhao said, shrugging. Most of the time, I have more supply than demand. The excess spiritual qi is directly returned to the world. It's the same if I give it to you now. With Chen Zhao's supply, Bifla and Zhang Tianyi's power was quickly replenished. Just then, Chen Zhao's advantage as a transcendent showed itself. Chen Zhao didn't stay idle either. He used flame energy to create a small sun. It was a giant fireball with a diameter of more than 1,000 meters. Of course, if it was just a fireball of this size, many people could do it. Actually, there were quite a few people who could do it. For example, Bifla could create more than a dozen in a minute. But this small sun had basically achieved nuclear fusion. It wasn't something Bifla could do. Although it couldn't exist for billions of years like a real star, it could still exist for a few years. However, it was not a problem for it to exist for a few more years. Then a second, a third, and a fourth. To Chen Zhao, this wasn't tiring at all. To Chen Zhao, this wasn't tiring at all. Each one required more than 10 minutes to prepare. It wasn't practical to use on the battlefield. Although the small sun's explosion was powerful, 10 minutes was enough for the enemy to escape the atmosphere. It wasn't as convenient and practical as the dark red neutron star. Zhang Tianyi and Bifla didn't say anything about Chen Zhao's actions. At this moment, Chen Zhao truly displayed power that surpassed them and the Shangqing state. Is it far enough? How do we get the dimensional beacons? Not enough. At this speed, we'll have to let them fly for another dozen days before we can use them as beacons. How long can they last? I don't know. Maybe a few years or decades, Chen Zhao said casually. This thing is small, but its structure is similar to the sun, Chen Zhao said casually. But the sun burns hydrogen and helium, while mine burns pure heat. Under normal circumstances, how long will it take for your magic power to run out? Chen Zhao asked. Bifla and Zhang Tianyi looked at each other. I need about 2 days. I want to run out in 1 day. If that's Bader's plan, then he'll be here in 3 days at most. The three of them were not in a hurry. They had Chen Zhao's supplies, from spiritual qi to daily necessities. The three of them were actually quite happy. Chen Zhao had brought a lot of food with him. There were even recreational facilities. The only thing that made Zhang Tianyi and Bifla uncomfortable was that they had to leave Chen Zhao's inner world every time they ate. Otherwise, if Chen Zhao released his inner world, he would be able to use it. Any food would evaporate in an instant. Actually, with their strength, they wouldn't starve to death even if they didn't eat for half a year. Now that there was food and drink, the three of them were even less anxious. As for completely trapping the three of them, basically, it was not very realistic. After all, they already had a plan. If Bader was really going to ignore them, they used Chen Zhao's method to confirm the dimension beacon in this world. Then, they would randomly open a passage to another world. If it was a world with a worse environment than here, they would return. Then they would try a new world. If they encountered a world with life, it would be worth it. Moreover, this should be one of the 9 realms. In other words, there was a high chance that they could open one of the 9 realms. So, while the current situation was not optimistic, it was not a dead end. At most, they would just have to spend more time. On the 3rd day, the 3 of them felt a spatial fluctuation at the same time. The 3 of them looked at each other. It's here. The 3 immediately retracted their auras. At the same time, Zhang Tianyi wiped the oil off the corner of his mouth. The 3 of them pretended to be abnormally weak. The god of light and his underlings appeared in an overbearing manner. Seeing the 3's weak posture, Bader smiled in satisfaction. I'm really sorry, Mr. Chen. I think something happened to me, so I got lost and wasted so many days. Chen Zhao raised his head slowly as if he was too tired to even move his eyelids. He glanced at Bader. Tell me, what's your goal? Mr. Chen, you don't have to pretend anymore. You're an enhancer. This world has weakened you to a certain extent, but you can't be so weak that you can't even move your limbs. Chen Zhao looked at Zhang Tianyi and Bifla awkwardly. Both of them looked at him in disdain. You can't even act well. What else can you do? I say, what's the point of acting? Why don't we just take action? Chen Zhao looked at Bader fiercely. Since you've seen through me, let's do it. Bader waved his hand and the 6 people behind him stepped forward. The leader was a big bald man with a red skull tattoo on his head. I don't agree with Mr. Bader. Even if you're at your peak, you can't beat all 6 of us at the same time. But I don't mind bullying the weak, even though it seems unfair. Baldy gave Chen Zhao a declaration of victory as soon as he came up. Chen Zhao yawned. Can you hurry up? I haven't had a good sleep in a few days. I want to have a good sleep after this fight. Hey, Chen Zhao, you're raising a flag, Zhang Tianyi said telepathically. The big bald man and the others were clearly displeased by Chen Zhao's arrogant words. They were all extremely strong. They thought that they might not be strong enough to face veteran fighters like Chen Zhao, Bifla, and Zhang Tianyi. In a one-on-one situation, they could protect themselves. In a 2-on-1 situation, they were completely confident that they could beat the other. Moreover, the other side had all used up their spiritual power. Only Chen Zhao was an enhancer, so his body still had some combat power. Not only were they at their peak, but they also had an absolute advantage in numbers. So, they couldn't think of a reason to lose. Leader, let me fight him. Just then a short man stood up. Although this short man wasn't tall, his valiant aura was unmistakable. He was also an enhancer. When he looked at Chen Zhao, his eyes were fierce. I heard that you're the strongest enhancer. I'm not convinced, the short man said in a hoarse voice. Chapter 2983. The short man's abnormally thick limbs already proved the terrifying power contained in his body. I'll first crush your limbs and then, under your terrified gaze, I'll crush your bones into powder bit by bit. The short man used vivid body movements to express his thoughts. Pfft. Zhang Tianyi couldn't help but laugh. Chen Zhao turned around and glared at Zhang Tianyi. You said I don't know how to act? What's with your laughter? Are you going to take responsibility for scaring Bader away? Luckily, Bader didn't notice the calmness in Zhang Tianyi and Bifla's eyes. Or rather, he did notice, but Bader felt that they'd placed their hopes on Chen Zhao. Whoosh! The moment Chen Zhao turned around, the short man moved. The next moment, the short man grabbed Chen Zhao's neck with both hands. A cruel smile appeared on the short man's face. But what greeted him was Chen Zhao's equally cruel smile. You should use more strength. You won't be able to crush my limbs, nor will you be able to crush my bones. The short man's expression changed and he retreated quickly. But it was too late. Chen Zhao simply reached out and grabbed the short man's left wrist. He was increasing his strength bit by bit. But Chen Zhao's smile didn't change. Still cold and cruel. Do it. Save me. The short man roared. Boom. A bolt of lightning struck Chen Zhao's back. But Chen Zhao wasn't moved. He turned around and looked at the woman who'd ambushed him. I've decided. After I crush his limbs and crush his bones, you'll be next. Chen Zhao did as he said. Chen Zhao crushed the short man's left arm inch by inch. Then his right arm. Boom boom. The others couldn't save the short man. Of course, They could only use this chance to attack Chen Zhao. But Chen Zhao just stood there with his back to the other enemies. He allowed their attacks to land on him. Soon they realized. Their attacks had no effect on Chen Zhao at all. Chen Zhao didn't even defend himself. He focused all his attention on torturing the short man. It was as if they weren't worth his attention at all. In just 2 or 3 minutes, the short man's cries had stopped. He wasn't completely dead yet, but he was almost there. A powerful force hung on to his last breath. Chen Zhao, can you control your expression? I think we're on the side of justice, but your smile makes you look like a villain, a crazy god at that. Chen Zhao ignored Zhang Tianyi's complaints. No matter what he thought. Anyway, he had been trapped by Bader for 3 days. This was enough to make Chen Zhao very frustrated. There was a chance to vent at this time. Was he going to lie on the ground and play dead like Zhang Tianyi and Baifla? Chen Zhao lifted a finger. The short man's body had already lost control. He was lifted into the air and then compressed. Chen Zhao pinched the red bead gently. It's your turn now. You'll be the same as him. Don't worry, I'll take good care of the pearls made from the flesh and blood of experts. The other 5 felt a chill run down their spines. Chen Zhao looked at the woman who controlled the lightning. Let's start with you. Ah! Without warning, the woman's body was squeezed and deformed. Save me, save me. The remaining 4 people's faces were instantly filled with fear. They were Shangqing realm experts. How could they be crushed by this man through the air? Bader's expression changed. Damn, Chen Zhao must have used up all his mana. His little world was still there. But in this environment where there was no air or spiritual qi, his little world was practically non-existent. How could he still be so powerful when facing a Shangqing realm expert who was in perfect condition? Bader accepted Chen Zhao's strength. After all, he had experienced it himself. That strength made him unable to fight back at all. But he had no mana now and his body couldn't be strengthened. No matter how strong he was, there should be a limit, right? Of course, Chen Zhao was an enhancer, after all. His body had to be thoroughly tempered. So, it was understandable that he defeated the short man. The short man was also in the Shangqing realm. But he wasn't a normal Shangqing realm expert. He could accept losing to an experienced enhancer like Chen Zhao. But Bader couldn't accept Electrus's death. Chen Zhao held the second red bead in his hand. Chen Zhao looked at Baldy. I like unfair battles too. Baldy's expression turned extremely ugly. Retreat. Too late. The 4 suddenly felt like their necks were being strangled. Chen Zhao wasn't just suppressing them in terms of level. It was because his opponents were too weak. If it were Zhang Tianyi or Baifla, even if they were 1 realm lower than Chen Zhao, even if they were in a weakened state, Chen Zhao couldn't end the battle easily. He was confident that he could win in a one-on-one situation. But if it was 1 against 2, neither of them would be able to survive. But the 4 he was facing were also in the Shangqing realm. But they were really too weak. Chen Zhao even felt that they were insulting this realm. It was extremely insulting. You're really weak. The 4 didn't die. They were still resisting stubbornly. But Chen Zhao's words stung them deeply. They really wanted to explode. But the enemy they faced couldn't be shaken at all. The difference was too great. They couldn't turn the tide just by exploding. Chen Zhao looked at Bader. Bader's face was ashen. He took out his compass and wanted to leave. His thought was simple. Chen Zhao's current dominance was his miscalculation. Maybe Chen Zhao had a stronger foundation. But how long could he last? 10 days? 20 days? Or 30 days later? Without the support of the spiritual qi of heaven and earth, in the end, he would still continue to weaken. His body would also gradually lose its vitality. But just then, countless golden lights flashed in the sky. Bader suddenly looked up and saw countless golden talismans appear above his head. The talismans almost turned half the sky golden. They surrounded him densely. Bader's expression changed drastically. He didn't have time to activate the compass anymore. Instinctively, he wanted to escape. But Zhang Tianyi was faster. Dharma is like a mountain. Seal the heavens, go! In an instant, countless rays of golden light shot toward Balder. Bader could only protect his body. Countless golden talismans stuck to Bader's body. Bader immediately felt that something was wrong. Oh no! These are demon sealing talismans. Bader's body seemed to be frozen. He couldn't even move a finger. The next moment, Bader's hand was empty. The compass was in Chen Zhao's hand. Chapter 2984. Bader panicked immediately. Give it back. Bader couldn't care less about his fear now. A beam of white light exploded from his body, shattering the talisman Zhang Tianyi had stuck on him. He lunged at Chen Zhao. In fact, Zhang Tianyi's control over this move wasn't strong. The real effect only lasted for a moment. It was to create an opportunity for Chen Zhao. As long as Bader took out the compass, then Chen Zhao would attack immediately. But when Bader reacted, Chen Zhao put away the compass. He watched as Bader headbutted him. Chen Zhao laughed. If you're stubborn, go ahead. If I take a step back, I'll admit defeat. As expected, Bader stopped himself in time. He looked at Chen Zhao with anger in his eyes. Sorry. Chen Zhao smiled at Bader. Looks like you've lost. Humph. You can't kill me. None of you can. Then, as the god of light, you can be sealed in this world of nothingness and darkness forever, Zhang Tianyi said. But before you're sealed, you'll enjoy 3 times the happiness. Bifla blocked Bader's retreat from another direction. Bader's expression was still firm, even a bit mocking. Mr. Chen, how many days have you been away? Chen Zhao turned to Zhang Tianyi. How many days have we been away? About 3 or 4 days. Then your family should have been guests at my place for 3 or 4 days, Bader said proudly. Really? I remember that when I left, I sent them to a friend's house who had her period. Are you sure you have them? Bader's expression changed again. Damn, he forgot about Blood Mary 23. Come, tell me what other trump cards you have. Chen Zhao grinned at Bader. Bader's expression was bitter. It wasn't that he didn't have any trump cards. More importantly, he was facing 3 people. There was no trump card in the world that could help him defeat 3 enemies stronger than him at the same time. At their level, if they made some preparations, they could indeed defeat enemies stronger than themselves. But the price of such preparations wasn't even high. It wasn't a 100% chance either. Not to mention that he was facing 3 people. Old Zhang, we're righteous people. You said it yourself. Take out a mirror and look at yourself, Chen Zhao said telepathically. But the next moment, when Chen Zhao and Zhang Tianyi heard Bifla's words, they felt that they would definitely be labeled as villains. I want to give it a try. Can your immortal body withstand the inextinguishable flame? Bader shuddered and almost wet his pants. Damn it, who are these people? Bifla, did you get the wrong script? If we don't play shit, what the fuck would we do? Don't you want Odin's treasure? Bader could only use his ultimate move. The 3 of them looked at each other. I'm afraid Odin's treasure doesn't exist. Do you know why I'm looking for him? Bader pointed at him. Why? Isn't it because I'm strong? Chen Zhao asked narcissistically. Hee hee. What are you laughing at? Do you want to get beaten up in advance? So what's your answer? Do you want Odin's treasure? Yes. Then we still have time to talk. But just then, Chen Zhao shook his head. Whether or not you want Odin's treasure has nothing to do with us beating you up. Bader was miserable. Chen Zhao, Bifla, and Zhang Tianyi didn't hold back at all. They didn't need to hold back either. Bader was the most perfect punching bag in the world. Even Zhang Tianyi was shocked by his immortal body. Both he and Bifla couldn't kill Bader no matter how hard they tried. Apart from torturing Bader viciously and disgustingly, Chen Zhao didn't participate in the research at all. Because he'd already tried it before. Bader indeed couldn't be killed. Reality also proved that even Zhang Tianyi and Bifla's 600 years of intelligence couldn't do anything to Bader. But this didn't mean that Bader would be happy. Regardless of whether the 3 could kill him or not, he was still a loser. The 3 weren't just ridiculously strong. Most importantly, they were ruthless. Can we have a good talk now? Of course. Can I get up first? Also, take your foot away from my face. Bader was furious. He felt like he'd lost all his dignity as a god in this battle. Bifla was the weakest among the 3, But that was only relative. In fact, Bifla had revived him the most times in the shortest amount of time. Against Chen Zhao and Zhang Tianyi, Bader could at least struggle a little. The difference was still huge, but at least he could live a little longer. But against Bifla, Bader felt that all his attacks and defenses were futile. Bifla would kill him instantly. Instant kill. Instant kill. Instant kill. This was Bifla's specialty. As long as the opponent wasn't as strong as him, he could kill them instantly. Bader was a living example. Moreover, Bifla's inextinguishable flame was terrifying. Because Bifla used his full strength in every attack. After one attack, if the enemy didn't die, he would be the one lying down. Of course, it didn't mean that Bifla couldn't fight after one attack. It was just that he took a long time to charge up. He wasn't like Chen Zhao, who could finish things with a punch. How fast he could punch and how many times he could punch depended on his stamina. After one attack, Bifla needed to pause for a few seconds to recover. These few seconds weren't long for a normal enemy. But at their level, a few seconds were enough for them to have babies. This was also why Bifla would lose instantly if he couldn't beat him, and win instantly if he could. Of course, this was Bifla's strength. There weren't many people who could make him lose instantly. The two beside him were already half of them. Bader clearly wasn't one of them. Zhang Tianyi's attacks belonged to the neutral path. This was related to the Taoist concept of peace and inaction. Whether it was offense or defense, he was steady and steady. This calmness gave him a lot of leeway when he attacked. He didn't feel sharp at all. He couldn't decide the battle in one move like Bifla. But he won in being steady and steady. Every time he faced Zhang Tianyi, Bader always felt that if he worked harder, he might be able to defeat Zhang Tianyi. Then, this illusion lasted until the end, and he still had this illusion. In the end, he cried. Fighting against Zhang Tianyi really wasn't something a human could do. The feeling of clearly winning but not being able to win was really unbearable. Fighting against Chen Zhao, on the other hand, was a different feeling. He just felt that he couldn't beat Chen Zhao. Bifla was like his own flame, invading like fire. Either he extinguished the fire, or he was burned to ashes by the fire. When fighting against Zhang Tianyi was like a mountain. He felt that he had a chance to climb over, but he didn't know that the mountain was much higher and steeper than it looked. The feeling that Chen Zhao gave Bader was like a human facing a large carnivorous beast. At first glance, he felt that he couldn't beat this guy. Chapter 2985. I'm looking for Mr. Chen because Odin's treasure needs a strong man. Strong man? You have it yourself, right? That shorty that I crushed earlier had quite a bit of strength. Him, Bader said. He's strong, but he's not enough. Reality also proved that he really wasn't enough before Chen Zhao. No, he shouldn't compare him to Chen Zhao. It felt like they were in different dimensions. Those few didn't break through by themselves, right? Zhang Tianyi said, squinting. Bader couldn't help but look up at Zhang Tianyi. How did you know? They have cultivation, but they don't have their own path, Zhang Tianyi said. Old Zhang, is the path you're talking about a realm? I remember when we first met, you also said that I had cultivation but no realm. Bullshit. Dao and realm aren't the same thing. Zhang Tianyi rolled his eyes at Chen Zhao and said telepathically, when I said that you didn't have a realm, it was because your state of mind was arbitrary and your foundation was extremely poor. Dao is your own path. If you don't have your own path, you can't break through to the Shangqing realm. Bader couldn't help but look at Zhang Tianyi more seriously. He had indeed underestimated humans. This was especially true for the most powerful humans in front of him. Yes, Bader answered quickly. They actually inherited someone else's realm. Someone else's realm? So you have a way to take someone else's realm and transfer it to someone else? No, those are the experts who were loyal to me in the past. After they died, I used a special method to preserve their corpses and souls. Then, when I need them, I will transfer a part of their souls to another body and merge with that person's soul. That method seems feasible, but those who broke through by trickery probably don't live long, right? Merging with the souls of the dead means that their souls will decay faster, but the advantage is obvious too. They can be reused. Back to the topic, Chen Zhao reminded. Bader glanced at Chen Zhao and shrugged. I need someone who can push Asgard forward. What? Push Asgard forward? That's a whole world. You think I can push it forward? Asgard is big, but it's not a complete world. Bader said, Asgard is actually the same as Alfheim. It's a floating continent, only half the size of Alfheim. After the Battle of Dusk, 1/3 of Asgard's area was shattered, so it's actually not that big. At least, it's much smaller than a world. I still don't understand. Why do we need Chen Zhao to promote Asgard? Could it be that Odin's treasure is buried under Asgard? No, Odin's treasure will only open when Asgard moves to a certain position. In the past, during the Age of the Gods, Asgard would operate on its own, but now, Asgard is almost completely damaged and has long lost the ability to operate on its own. So if there are no accidents, Odin's treasure will never appear. Then what was your original purpose? Seize his body, and use the soul I prepared beforehand to invade his body. Bader did not use any euphemism to describe his purpose. Instead, he directly expressed his intentions and goals. In other words, there's never been a soul of Odin, and your goal isn't Asgard? Asgard is already ownerless, Bader said. Odin is long dead. Chen Zhao was rather angry, but he still maintained a smile. How do I use this? Chen Zhao asked, holding the compass. Don't reach out. It belongs to me now. It records the dimensional beacons of the 9 realms. So, as long as I have this, I can travel through the 9 realms freely? Bader nodded. Chen Zhao asked again. So, as long as you have this, you're worthless. Is that what you mean? Bader could already see evil smiles on the three's faces. Wait. You still don't know where Asgard needs to be moved to, right? So you still need me. Since the location of Odin's treasure is hidden in an alternate dimension, it must follow the laws of magic. So if we spend some time, we should be able to figure it out, Bifla said. So, you are not indispensable. Then, do you know Vanir magic? Bader asked unhurriedly. What? Even if you find Odin's treasure, you will not be able to open it if you don't know Vanir magic. A self-destruct magic array has been set up in the treasury. If you open the treasury without using Vanir magic in advance, the self-destruct magic array will automatically activate. Who would install a self-destruct device on their safe? I feel like you're begging for mercy, Chen Zhao said. Anyway, I don't have it. Because the value of your safe can't compare to Odin's, Zhang Tianyi said. Whose side are you on? I'm just stating the facts. In other words, I can't beat him up again, cut up his body, and hide it somewhere else. Why would you have such a strange idea? Isn't it always like that in movies? The demon's body is separated and sealed. Only by reassembling it can he be completely resurrected. I'm a god, Bader said, annoyed. It doesn't matter. Chen Zhao didn't care about Bader's identity. Actually, if it were me, I would just throw you into the sun. I don't know if you can resurrect infinitely on the sun. Bader didn't know himself. He just felt that. The human before him really knew how to make himself suffer. Chen Zhao handed the compass to Zhang Tianyi. Zhang Tianyi studied it for a bit and understood how to use it. Which dimensional beacon is Asgard's? Zhang Tianyi asked. From his perception of the compass, there were a total of 4 dimensional beacons. One of them was Alfheim, which meant that there were 3 more dimensional beacons, all of which could be Asgard. The one with the lowest value is Asgard. Zhang Tianyi nodded. Chen Zhao and Bifla both moved closer to Zhang Tianyi. Just as Bader was hesitating whether to go closer, Chen Zhao pulled him to his side. Zhang Tianyi successfully opened a spatial crack. The 3 looked at each other and entered at the same time. Chapter 2986. It was a broken piece of land. At the moment, everyone in the sky could see Asgard from all directions. Asgard was like a huge inverted mountain floating in the air. Of course, the size of this inverted mountain was thousands of times larger than the largest mountain known to everyone. The plain facing upwards was a group of magnificent buildings. However, the buildings had clearly been severely damaged. Many craters were left on the ground like meteorites. Most of the buildings were in ruins. It was still majestic. But it couldn't hide the aura of decay. A corner of the ground was broken. It had probably been smashed by an extremely powerful existence. Just then, Chen Zhao felt many auras. Powerful auras. Many powerful auras appeared in the buildings of Asgard. There were more than 100 of them. More than a dozen of them weren't weaker than Bader. At the same time, Bader suddenly broke free from Chen Zhao's control. He'd even severed his arm. Chen Zhao was still holding the broken arm tightly. A muscular man with a single arm came to Bader's side. "Bader, what's wrong?" "There's a problem with the plan." Bader looked at Chen Zhao, his eyes flashing. "Ah!" Chen Zhao sighed and tossed Bader's arm away. "I knew it would be like this." Bader's arm moved a little too. When he looked at Chen Zhao, his eyes were filled with complicated emotions. He looked at Zhang Tianyi and Bifla. "You two, this shouldn't be your battlefield," Bader said. "It doesn't belong to you. The 9-world waymark is in your hands. You have a chance to leave now." "Leave? Really?" "Bifla, how about we leave?" Zhang Tianyi's face was filled with exaggerated terror. Bifla nodded coldly. "Sure, when do we leave? Have you booked the tickets?" Bader's words obviously wouldn't make Zhang Tianyi and Bifla waver. What a joke. They weren't kind people. And he was threatening them right in front of them. If they abandoned their teammates to survive, they might even run away in fear without fighting. Not only would they be unable to improve their cultivation for the rest of their lives, but they might even fall out of the Shangqing state. "Is your grudge against me that big? You've schemed for so long just to deal with me." Chen Zhao looked at Bader helplessly. Bader's expression was also complicated. "Mr. Chen, actually, I don't hate you at all. On the contrary, I admire you very much." "Then I don't understand. Since you admire me so much, why are you still scheming against me?" "After all, there is a reason." Bader smiled. "Whether you understand it or not, whether you accept it or not." Just then, Chen Zhao, Bifla, and Zhang Tianyi looked up at the sky. The enmity of the heavenly Tao. The greatest enemy of the world. The sky above Asgard was suddenly raging. A terrifying giant was formed by the gathering of wind and clouds. It was a bearded giant wearing a horned helmet and dressed like a Viking warrior. The giant held a long spear formed from thunderclouds and wore an eye patch over one of his eyes. This image almost indicated his identity. Odin, the king of the gods in Norse mythology. Bader's biological father. "My children, fight for me!" Odin let out a deafening roar. At the same time, Odin pointed his spear at Chen Zhao, Bifla, and Zhang Tianyi, shooting out a rainbow. Chen Zhao's inner world materialized and assimilated Zhang Tianyi and Bifla's auras. That way, they wouldn't lose because they didn't have enough energy to fight in this world. The world of flames immediately blocked the rainbow. At the same time, it made the nearby gods retreat in pain. A few of the slower ones were immediately ignited by the furnace. Zhang Tianyi and Bifla also made their moves at this time. "Looks like we'll be the ones to start the second dusk," Chen Zhao said, chuckling. Zhang Tianyi and Bifla laughed too. Of course, the situation they were facing right now and their emotions weren't as relaxed as they seemed. They were facing more than 100 gods. There was also an unknown king of the gods. From the looks of it, they definitely weren't weak. The dark red neutron star in Chen Zhao's hand suddenly shot into the crowd. Instantly, more than a dozen gods were covered by the dark red neutron star's impact. The ground of Asgard was also baptized by the dark red neutron star's impact. The gods that were affected by the shockwave dissipated in an instant. Both sides were shocked by Chen Zhao's terrifying attack. The three didn't even have time to be happy. Suddenly, they saw the gods that should have been destroyed reappear. Once again, they appeared in front of the three of them, unscathed. "What's going on?" "No way. Are they like Baldur? Immortal bodies?" "If that's the case, then we're in big trouble." Baldur wasn't very strong. But the trouble was his immortal body. Apart from sealing him, there was almost no way to kill him. Just like Chen Zhao's firm opinion, when the opponent couldn't kill you, you had the chance to choose how to kill the opponent. Chen Zhao frowned. "No. They're not alive. They only have souls. At least most of them only have souls. How is that possible? I didn't notice anything." Zhang Tianyi looked at Chen Zhao in confusion. He thought that he had good eyesight. He wouldn't be unable to tell if the enemies were alive or pure spirits. Chen Zhao didn't just see it. He realized that when the bodies of the gods he had destroyed were being reconstructed, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth gathered towards them. It was the spiritual qi of heaven and earth that had reconstructed their bodies. It wasn't their own abilities that had caused them to be interrogated. It was the world that had reconstructed them. Chen Zhao could notice their abnormalities. Because Chen Zhao could do it himself. Chen Zhao's heart jumped. He suddenly thought of something. Old Zhang, Baifla, you'll be in charge of the battle later. Block any attacks for me. What are you going to do? Use a new big move, Chen Zhao said. Baifla and Zhang Tianyi nodded. Their trust in Chen Zhao meant that they didn't need to question him. Suddenly, a dark cloud covered the three of them. Then it started pouring. The rainwater fell into Chen Zhao's furnace. The world was immediately evaporated. Large amounts of steam covered all of Asgard. In the blink of an eye, everyone lost their vision. Whether it was the people or the gods present, they could only judge the situation of the battlefield through their senses. To the Norse gods, it was undoubtedly more advantageous. After all, they were protected by the world. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.